meeting of the Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders is hereby called to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Here.
Freeholder Mercado.
Here.
Freeholder Pomares.
Here.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Here.
Freeholder Sebel.
Here.
Freeholder President Gill.
Here. Can I ask that we please stand for the salute to the flag? I'm going to ask Freeholder Luciano to lead us in the salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to ask that we please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. I have before me certification from the clerk that this meeting is in compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act. Madam Clerk, are there any transcripts to be approved?
Mr. President, yes, there are two. Conference Board meeting September the 11th, 2019, and September the 25th, 2019.
Okay, freeholders, any questions or comments? If not, do I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes? Moved by Freeholder Sebel, second by Vice President Richardson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Sebel.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, are there any topics of discussion?
Mr. President, there are none.
Okay, Madam Clerk, I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Mr. President, a request from your freeholder from the floor would like to move the order of the meeting, which is your prerogative, and they're requesting that they move up ordinance number 3 to be introduced into the record, discussed, and voted on.
Okay.
And Mr. President, may I add that once this vote is taken, if it's passed, then the ordinance will be scheduled for public hearing and a vote on November the 6th,
I don't know. Okay. Yeah.
at the November 6th meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. No objection, Mr. Parlavecchio?
No, that's not, and then I assume we'll just resume the normal order of business on the agenda.
I believe that is the intention of the President.
Yes. So we will take ordinance number 3, move it up now, take for introduction, and then we will move back to the normal order on the agenda.
Great.
Mr. President, would you like me to read it into the record?
Madam Clerk, please.
Ordinance number 3, ordinance establishing an Essex County Correctional Facility Civilian Task Force.
Okay. Mr. Jackson?
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. Mr. Elijah, Chief of Staff, is here to address this issue.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Phil Elijah, Chief of Staff. I'm honored to be here tonight on behalf of Essex County Executive Joseph DiVincenzo to present an ordinance creating the Essex County Corrections Civilian Task Force. This was a collaborative effort between the administration, the Freeholder Board, its President Brendan Gill, Vice President Wayne Richardson, the entire board, the ACLU, and the community. I'm very pleased that the ACLU yesterday offered support for this task force, stating that it would begin paving the way for meaningful civilian oversight at a county jail with one of the largest populations of immigration detainees in the nation. Let's be clear, we're not here because of a federal consent decree or because we were forced to do this. We are here because we believe that this task force is the right thing to do. As always been the case, we continuously look for ways to improve the conditions for all the residents of our facility. For the past year, we have opened the jail up to tours and visits by over 100 elected officials, clergy, advocates, students, and community members, seeing for themselves the conditions there and the dedication and the hard work of the entire staff. We meet regularly with ICE stakeholders and have implemented their suggestions to improve the daily life of our residents, including changing our diet this year to a halal menu and adding an evening stack. We have created a new position and have hired an inmate advocate. She will work directly with the civilian task force, the ICE stakeholders, the community, and our inmates and detainees on issues that affect them. We look forward to hearing the recommendations that the task force will make and, when appropriate, implement them. But more exciting to us is the opportunity of getting independent validation of the work our correction officers, civilians, and volunteers do every day at the Essex County Correctional Facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Okay, thank you. Mr. Parlavecchio, sorry.
No,
I'm
that's
good.
okay. I have a copy of
Thank you,
it. if
thank you, thank you. Any further questions?
No, having been
Comments?
involved in it, I have no other comments. Looking forward to its introduction.
Mr. McInerney?
No question.
Questions or comments? Freeholders, any questions or comments? Freeholder Siebold.
Yes, thank you. I have a comment. I've been going to the task force meetings, and I've been following this very carefully. I've read the ordinance thoroughly, and I think that this is a wonderful ordinance that we're going to establish a civilian task force. I think this is something that's really necessary, and I understand that the head of it is going to be Judge Lenardis. Do I have it correct? And there will be people appointed, and I think this is a really good step forward in terms of our total procedures with the jail. Thank you.
Thank you, Freeholder Siebold. Freeholder Mercado.
Thank you, Mr. President, and through you, I would like to thank the administration, the county executive, along with yourself, President Gill, my fellow freeholders, and all the parties involved in helping establish this first civilian task force in the nation. I would like to also thank all the organization and advocacy groups and concerned citizens that came to the table to ensure that the genesis of this task force became a reality. We look forward to setting a precedent in the areas of higher level of oversight, accountability, and definitely looking into the positive results that this task force is going to assume. So for everyone involved, I want to say thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Freeholder Mercado. Vice President Richardson.
Through you, Mr. President, just happy to have been involved in this process from the beginning, and the long meetings, the discussions, the back and forth, the debates, the emails, you know, and it's coming to an agreement, put this task force together. It makes perfect sense. So I look forward to the recommendations and the work that they have ahead of them. It's not going to be easy, you know, but I'm happy to be a part of it, and knowing that we're the first in the country to put something like this together, I think it's going to make a big difference in a lot of people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Richardson. Freeholders, any additional questions or comments? I would also just like to echo the sentiments of my freeholder colleagues. I want to thank both the administration and the staff for their work. I want to thank the advocates who have participated in this process. I know we're still going to have public comment and take public comment tonight. I want to be clear, this is an introduction. Final passage, as noted by the clerk, or potential final passage, if supported by the full board, would be at our November meeting. It's, in my opinion, a very, very important first step that this county is taking in the creation of a body that will have independent oversight over our facility. And the Chief of Staff to the County Executive highlighted it, and I think it's important to highlight it again that that this is a step that's being taken proactively, you know, by the administration, and I want to thank them for their willingness to work with those of us on the board who thought that this was critical. I know you thought it was critical as well, and also to participate and have the input of many of the advocates and also the ACLU who also I want to make sure we commend, who put quite a bit of time with us at the table each and every day to craft, which I believe is a very, very strong ordinance in creating real independent oversight on the facility. And I don't think this is the last step. This is going to continue to be a journey on this, but I definitely think this is a great place on a tough issue, not a great thing, but a great place to start in delivering what many of our constituents have asked us to do. So thank you, thank you. I want to thank all the colleagues who worked on this, and again, everyone who put time into it. Seeing, are there any additional questions or comments, freeholders? Freeholders, do I have a motion and a second to introduce? So, we got to referee a tie between the vice president and Freeholder Seabold.
You can move it, I'll second.
Oh, God, thank you. Moved by Freeholder Seabold, second by Vice President Richardson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Seabold.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving back to our regular agenda, we'll be going to public comment. Thank you. So tonight's meeting is a combined conference board meeting. We'll vote on every item on the agenda. If there's any member of the public who would like to comment on any issue, whether or not it's on the agenda, you'll have one opportunity to speak. Please come to the microphone and state your name and affiliation for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. I also want to recognize for the record Freeholder Johnson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Is it on? Yeah, okay. My name is,
And I apologize, just before we get public comments, I know we have quite a few people who want to speak tonight. I'm really going to ask that everyone respect the time limit. I know there's many people here who want to speak and who are lined up to speak, so I'm going to implore those who are here tonight to please do your best to keep it within the time that's on the clock. We'll try to be as reasonable as possible, but I want to make sure everyone has a chance to be heard this evening. Thank you.
right. Hello, good evening. My name is Holly Gauthier. I am co-chair of the Voting Rights Committee of Soma Action. And I'm here to say, first, thank you, freeholders, for assistance in facilitating a meeting that David Harris and I, co-chair of the Voting Rights Committee, he couldn't be here tonight, had with the election administration earlier this week on Monday. It was a nice meeting and successful, I believe. Secondly, we did receive some written answers to our questions, so I thank you for that as well. However, I would like to talk about a concern that both David and I had as a result of our meeting with the election officials on Monday. And Freeholder Pomero, I think this could be of particular interest to you. The pilot project will be in Montclair, the districts I have, but one of the things that we were concerned about was what would be the voter education ahead of time prior to people come in the brand new system, and they have to do a hand-marked paper ballot with optical scanner. That's going to be the pilot, which is great that they're going to do. The answer that we got is, on the one hand, not very much, and secondly, that they would be sending out sample ballots that would state that there will be hand-marked paper ballots, and then also that there would be a postcard. I'm really concerned that this is insufficient for good voter education on a significant change. I'm going to, for your benefit, I have an article from the Philadelphia Inquirer from May that talks about the difficulties that Montgomery County in Pennsylvania had. And just one second, sorry. The first sentence of this article says, some Montgomery County voters were surprised when they walked into their polling places Tuesday. I don't think we want voters to be surprised. I think we want voters to be prepared and to be ready. Secondly, there is a good way to educate voters, which we did share with the officials on Monday. And this is done in other places where they are trying to switch to a hand-marked paper ballot. And I have this for the freeholders as well. I don't have enough for everybody tonight, but hopefully you'll get them. The first thing is as simple as 1, 2, 3. 1, sign the poll book. We already do that. 2, mark the ballot with a pen. We did all that in school, most of us anyway. 3, insert the ballot into the optical scanner. I'm very concerned that the voters will have an insufficient education and that the pilot will be insufficiently evaluated as to whether this is a good system or the ballot marking machine, which they used last November, is the better system. I assure you, it is not.
Sorry.
Good evening. My name is Jean Lo-Cicero, and I'm the legal director at the ACLU of New Jersey. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to talk tonight about the Civilian Task Force ordinance that's been proposed. And I'd like to thank Freeholder President Gill, Vice President Richardson, Mr. Loggia, and the Essex County Administration for reaching out to the ACLU as they drafted this ordinance. As many folks here tonight know, reports of physical and sexual assault, unsanitary food, and unsafe conditions at the jail have made it clear that independent oversight is urgently needed. To be clear, the ACLU opposes immigration detention, but as long as people are in jail, civilian oversight on how they are treated is critical. The ordinance introduced tonight has the potential to hold the jail accountable for all people held there, not just people held by ICE, not just people with criminal charges, but everyone. The ACLU supports this ordinance because it's a good first step towards addressing and preventing the abuses and conditions that have been reported. The ordinance is not perfect. The ACLU initially proposed a board with more structural independence. And accountability will rely on a board that operates independently and is responsive to the community, especially people directly impacted by conditions at the jail. And so passing this ordinance must be the beginning, not the end, of the county's commitment to transparency and accountability at the county jail. If you do this right, this task force can be a model for meaningful community engagement and oversight. The freeholders and the county executive can ensure that the task force provides true oversight rather than just a rubber stamp on the harmful status quo at the jail. And there are 3 things in particular I'd like to highlight that are necessary for the task force to be meaningful. First, the nominations process. It must be transparent. Before anyone is nominated to the task force, the freeholders and the county executive should announce openings and accept recommendations from community groups for every slot, and give those recommendations thorough and fair consideration. And if you're not going to follow those recommendations, the freeholders and county exec should explain exactly how and why it chose to nominate others. Second, task force reports. The executive and freeholders must commit to releasing every report and conclusion to the public without exception. The public must be certain that it is learning of every abuse or problem that the task force uncovers so that it can continue to hold its officials accountable. Third, full cooperation. The jail administration and the county must fully cooperate with the task force's work, including full access to the facility and records. The jail administration must not hide behind security or confidentiality concerns to prevent the task force from doing its critical work, and it must provide maximum access consistent with safety. The ACLU supports the passage of this ordinance because of the possibility that the task force can provide meaningful community oversight, but we'll also be watching closely to ensure that as this ordinance is implemented, these three requirements, nominations, consistent public reporting, and full cooperation, are met. And let me end by saying that the ACLU is just one voice in this process. If I can just continue. We're just one voice in this process. I encourage you to be open to amendments to strengthen this ordinance. Tonight and in the coming days, you will be hearing from other stakeholders and Essex residents. They have proposed and will propose changes based on their experiences and priorities, and these recommendations are important and should be given consideration to make the ordinance and this process as inclusive and impactful as possible. So thank you again for introducing this ordinance.
Hi. My name's Elizabeth Foley. I represent Action Together New Jersey, and I'm also a liaison with several other grassroots groups in the area who are active in New Jersey. That includes Essex Rising, NJ 11th for Change, Women for Progress, Soma Action, Our Revolution Essex, and that's just naming a few of them. We have a membership in New Jersey that is large, diverse, and very active. Some of those groups I've mentioned have their own representatives tonight. I'm hoping you'll hear from them. But all of them are deeply concerned about the detention facility. We're concerned about how it's been run and how we're moving forward. The release of the Department of Homeland Security's reports on Essex was really an unpleasant wake-up call for many of us, and we realized we needed to be involved. This is Essex County, and we're better than this. We're better than how our jail came out in that report. Our continued involvement in this issue, we will be continuing to be involved, I guess I should say. And I don't intend that as a threat, that's a promise. We aren't going anywhere. We're going to be watching this process very carefully. Those who ran the jail really lost our trust when that report came out, not just by the horrifying facts of the report, but because they didn't come forward with the problems when they had a chance. We found out what happened 6 months later when the Department of Homeland Security released their report. And during this time, jail officials were still telling reporters that they had by far the best correctional facility in the state of New Jersey and in the United States of America. And I really hope to God that's not true, because that would be tragic. I was very pleased when I saw the announcement of the creation of the Civilian Task Force. It's an important first step in building a prison culture that protects the safety, welfare, and rights endowed by the Constitution to one of our most vulnerable populations. And this applies not just to our civil detainees, but to our criminal detainees as well. But as I read through it, I saw that it seems to be lacking in several ways. So I sent it to a handful of lawyers I know through activism, and they basically confirmed what I suspected. The first concern is, as was mentioned before, the process by which individuals are appointed to the board is not transparent. It does not solicit input from stakeholders and advocacy groups. It does not solicit input from the community at large. This is really a strange feature in something you want to call a civilian board. And I want to know, is there a reason this nomination was left solely in the hands of the county executive? While it may not be the intention, it offers a certain appearance, if not the actual possibility, that those appointed to the board will not be working in the best interests of the detainees, but rather in the best interests of those who run the jail. And I want to know how you're going to address this. The second concern is there is no mechanism for making the task force reports and recommendations public.
30 seconds.
These must be made available for the public review, even though certain things like names have to be, even if names have to be kept confidential. And I want to know what the justification for this is. Third concern, it's not really proper for the chair of the task force to be appointed by the Essex County executive. The board itself should appoint the chair. This is of particular importance because the chair alone seems to be able to control who within the task force is allowed to visit the jail. And I'm curious as to why this was presented this way. The fourth concern is that
Time's up.
All right, one more second. The fourth concern is that the executive director for this task force was appointed before the ordinance was passed or even presented to the freeholders. This seems unusual, I'm going to say. It doesn't really indicate that the public's input is valued, and we'd really like to address that. You have a chance to make this ordinance better. You can have a chance to create a model for other civilian boards, not just in New Jersey, but for the entire country. And this ordinance doesn't get us there. So let's fix it so that it does. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Victor Salama. I'm the Executive Director of First Friends of New Jersey, New York, and we advocate on behalf of ICE detainees.
If you squeeze right below the, you can control the mic.
Okay, there we
Pull
go.
it up.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Pull it up.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. As I said, my name is Victor Salama. I'm the Executive Director of First Friends of New Jersey, New York, and we advocate on behalf of ICE detainees while they're in detention and outside. And of course, we do have a strong relationship with staff of the county to make sure that conditions at the jail are good enough for, and get better. We want to thank everyone who's worked on this ordinance because we think it is a good baseline, but there are improvements that need to be made. We echo what ACLU has stated. We really think that the community has to have input and membership in this task force. It doesn't seem very independent when only the county executive basically has a decision-making power around this. But another thing, I want to be sure that you understand the need here for independence. We field hundreds of phone calls from all the jails in this area, and a lot of them are from Essex as well, from ICE detainees every day and every day they have complaints and potential grievances. What we want to be sure that there is independence in this task force to make sure that it's not just internal controls, that complaints and grievances come through and they get vetted and they get strongly analyzed by an independent body, so that way we are sure that the county is doing the right thing. Like I said, this is the first step, but we need independence and we need the community to help with choosing who is on this task force, or else it's just going to be a rubber stamp. So we hope that happens, and we look forward to working with the freeholders and county to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, just a point of order, I mean, we will make sure that everyone's concerns that are put on the record are answered in writing. But I did want to say just two quick things, because it's a common theme already in some of the outreach that I've received on the ordinance, and as well as what's being raised here tonight. The ordinance itself calls for 9 members through an advice and consent process that's governed by the county code. So the idea that there will not be public input or public input on who these members can be when they're submitted to the board is just not accurate. The ordinance itself calls for specific types of people to serve. It's also very clear in its language that if you have connections to the county or any type of connection to the county, that you would be disqualified from serving. So the ability to suggest people to serve within the categories, including representatives from detainee advocacy groups such as First Friends, including a representative from a recognized inmate advocacy group, there is really, really strong language in this ordinance to make sure that the people who are nominated by the executive, and I want to be fair to the executive, it's not the executive's pick. It's what the county code that we have to work by in an executive legislative form, just like any other administration would be making nominations for this board to either approve or disapprove to sit on this committee. And within this ordinance are very specific categories of people that need to be nominated. So the idea that this would just be a handpicked, to be very blunt, a handpicked bunch of the county executive's friends is just false. So, please.
Good evening. I'm Reverend Ann Roloski from First Congregational Church in Montclair, New Jersey. I also represent a cohort of colleagues from Faith in Essex County, as well as our congregation, along with B'nai Keshat Synagogue in Montclair and many other congregations, support sanctuary housing for undocumented immigrants at risk for deportation. The roots of our passion for this issue of caring for the least of these run deep. And that's why I'm here, and many of my colleagues are here, simply to make sure that part of what is informing the work of this group is how much we are to care for the most vulnerable among us, those who come seeking a safe place in our community only to find themselves at the hands of systems that can be uncaring. And so I just speak from the position of a Christian pastor whose the words from the Gospel of Matthew, that I was a stranger and you welcomed me, I was hungry, you fed me, I was in prison and you visited me. Because what we do for the least of those that are within our care, we are doing for God among us. And so I simply appreciate the time to be able to speak that into this community, and to extend our appreciation for the hard work that all the organizations are doing to make this the most moral, most transparent, most humane situation for those who find ourselves in our care. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Faith Joy Danswitz. I'm a rabbi at Temple B'nai Abraham, and I live in Millburn, New Jersey. I'm here as part of Faith in Essex and Faith in New Jersey, of which I'm a board member. And I want to thank everybody who's spoken before, who's lifted up the points that I also wanted to address. But I'm also mindful of this evening. We've just come off, for Jewish people, we've just finished a whole High Holy Day season, when the main theme of the Holy Days is Teshuvah, which can be translated as repentance. They're really turning back, turning away from things that we've done wrong, and turning to become better people. And so I'm grateful that the that Essex County is working hard to turn back from that terrible report of what was happening in the Essex County Correctional Facility, the jail, to know that they're trying to make it better, because that's what it's about. We're trying to become better people, better human beings. We want to feel good about the county in which we live. We want to be a model for the state and the nation. And this week, as we turn to this coming Shabbat, this Torah portion is the very beginning of the Torah, Genesis, Bereshit, where God is literally creating. All things are being created. And so as this document is being prepared, this ordinance, to note that it's a wonderful start. I'm so grateful for all the organizations that have put so much hard work into creating it and having oversight with getting the language to be correct and the morals in there, but to be sure to lift up those concerns that you've already heard tonight, the concerns that the ACLU and other members have brought out tonight about transparency, about the task force, about accountability, to make sure that it can be the best document it can be as we turn towards this Jewish New Year and towards this new path, this new way forward for the jail as well. Thank you very much.
Sir, if you squeeze the button right underneath the mic, and it will go up.
I'd like to thank the freeholders for engaging in this very important issue. And I would also like to say that...
Name for the record, please.
Oh, my name for the record is Justice Roundtree. I am an organizer for the coalition that is New Jersey Cake, the Campaign for Alternatives to Isolated Confinement. I'm a mental health provider, a substance abuse provider, a prison reentry advocate, but more importantly, I'm a survivor of serving time inside the New Jersey state prisons. So I have the lived experience of not only knowing firsthand the conditions that we're saying we want to oversee and ensure that human rights are implemented and applied. And one thing that I know for sure from having the experience of just having the most progressive law passed in the United States of America, right here from New Jersey, the Isolated Restricted Confinement Act, the strategy and the method and the tool that we used were those of us who were still here to tell our stories, but not just be our stories, but to give the intel and the insight as to what really goes on and what really needs to be overseen. I think the criteria of the positions that are available, none of them consider people with lived experience, the people that are most directly affected, people that have actually documented and worked and proven to be assets to this problem. I don't think you could be genuine about the issue of human rights and not considering the voices of those who are the humans, the rights that we're talking about protecting. So I would definitely say that I can't be an advocate of this bill. The New Jersey Cake cannot be an advocate or a supporter or a sponsor of this bill, and until it shouldn't even go forward until the members of the freeholders and the committee understand that the voices of those who are most directly affected are important and are valuable. I only need 3 minutes. Thank you.
So Manera El Bomani, a citizen of Newark, and also a survivor of Carwell. And just recently I read a letter, because I'm one of the ones instrumental in the dissent decree against Carwell in the 90s. And I read a letter that I wrote on behalf of the conditions of people who survived, who were living inside of Carwell during that time. All I can say is that the task force, as justices came, and we all are part of the NJ Cape, I'm also a member as well. You have to have, this commission have to have the people that's most affected. You got the Faulkner Act that needs to be amended or redone or something, because it gives y'all the power to pick whoever y'all want on this task force. And if you don't have the survivors like myself, who is instrumental in the conditions that still, almost 23 years later, we here fighting for, is just sad. 23 years, and I'm a part of the dissent decree from the 90s. When Caldwell, when we had to get removed out of Caldwell that dump that they had with all the conditions there. We had a lawsuit that was pending. Okay, you know about the 90s consent decree? Yeah, you're looking at someone who survived it. And it is sad, 23 years later, we have to cry out for our voices to be at the table to tell you what needs to be done in terms of assisting against these horrific inhumane treatment that's happening in Green Monster. First of all, we try to stop it from being built on a contaminated field. Okay? And it's a contaminated area. I don't know how y'all abated that, but it still smells horrible just going out there. This for the people to work there. But I just want to say you have to have the voices on this task force. And specifically, women today is the fastest growing population going to prison. Since I came home in '97, this is all I've been advocating for, is the human rights and the restoration and the human treatment, the human treatments of individuals incarcerated. I would go to my grave site until we get a task force that will speak to the individuals on the inside, returning home, getting assistance, getting services that to help us become a productive and live a productive life while we inside and outside. I will go to my grave fighting for this. So I'm saying to you, this task force needs to be comprised of mainly individuals who speak to our needs. And then I want to just close with the $120 million bond. Somebody could you just write me a letter explaining the pros and cons of this $20 million municipal bond that the city, the county awarded the city. I want to know the risks, I want to know the pros, I want to know the cons, I want to know everything about this bond and how it's going to affect the residents of this city.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I just wanted to take a point of order because I think it'd be also important just to highlight both of those issues that were raised, and especially for those, although the ordinance is on the website, again, this is first reading, so we're taking all of this input tonight. But as it is currently proposed on the 9-member board, the task force membership shall be composed as follows: one member, a representative from a recognized detainee advocacy group, such as First Friends. One shall be a representative from a recognized inmate advocacy group. One shall be a member in good standing of the New Jersey Criminal Defense Bar. One shall be a demonstrated corrections expert. One shall be a formerly incarcerated individual. One shall be a social justice advocate. One shall be an expert in the medical field. And one shall be a member of the public, all appointed with the advice and consent of the Board of Chosen Freeholders.
Good evening. My name's Katie Singer. I live in Millburn, New Jersey. I teach at Rutgers University in Newark. So tonight, I guess maybe we would say we're heartened by the plans to implement this independent civilian review board. Of course, it's not completely clear just how independent it's going to be, but I do applaud the incremental move forward, and I'm hopeful that it will indeed be voted upon and ratified at the November 6th meeting. I also want to acknowledge I did receive a response to my question during the last meeting as to whether clapping was prohibited during freeholders meetings. So what I learned was that boisterous behavior was not considered proper decorum. So I'm assuming if we just keep the clapping down to a non-boisterous level, we're okay to share our sentiments. I'd also suggest maybe a clause that requires the freeholders themselves to follow social decorum, as sometimes there's a lot of people talking to each other, checking their phones, and getting up and leaving the room when people are speaking. So I'm reiterating another question from my last meeting when I asked what the stance was of each freeholder on the ICE contract. This seems a reasonable question. It's a direct question. And if it will not be answered, then my question is, why can't the public be made aware of the freeholder stances on the ICE contract? So that should hopefully take care of at least some of the bureaucratic loopholes in this circular process. Tonight I have come to feel I'm on an extended filibuster, so I want to once again speak
to the bigger picture context surrounding the contract that Essex County has with ICE. It's important to state the obvious, that as long as the county supports this contract, they are complicit in every immoral, illegal, and unethical ICE practice. They, which is we, are a part of the immigration detention industry, and I want to offer a parallel. During the slave era, the northern states did not participate in the institution of slavery at the same level that the southern states did, but boy, oh boy, did they profit from the slave trade. The southern cotton production alone supplied raw materials for much of the manufacturing up north, including right here in Newark, because companies had contracts with southern slave-owning enterprises. When one contracts with another party, one is supporting directly the acts
30
of
seconds.
said party. In other words, Essex County, in being in contract with ICE, supports literally the sexual abuse, dehumanization, unjust arrests and punishments, subpar nourishment and shelter, and separation of families. Just as the northern businessmen finally financially supported the ways of slavery, those who continue to condone, profit from, or remain silent about the institution that is ICE are responsible
Time's
for
up.
and supportive of every exploitive, illegal, immoral, inhumane, unjust action that ICE takes. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Serge Demefak. I am the In-Detention Deportation Project Coordinator at American Friends. We are obviously pleased to see that the county is finally doing something with some teeth to it. Like most of the people have said here, it is a first step. And we've also had the opportunity to be part of the stakeholders meeting that have been held by the county. And it's been also another forum for us to discuss some of the details of what goes on in the processing of how we administer a jail in New Jersey, in Essex County. And we believe that there's still a lot more fine-tuning to do. You cannot just shove this through, start nominating people, send it up the stage. It's not going to work like that. And I also want to remind everybody here that the reason why we're here is because of immigration detention. I want everybody to remember that. It is about immigration detention. And we understand it's also a way for us to address systemic problem at the jail. I mean, I'm part of NJ Cake. But since I've been talking here, I've been talking about immigration detention, but I know very well the impact on the entire jail system. Now, it says that it is a task force, which means that it's going to be a specific job, which is probably going to end in a year or 2 years. It's not going to be forever. So for those who are thinking about independent oversight board, I don't see that in this document I've had in my hands, starting from the title. So I want to see that written on this document, because we want to work by law, we need to put that here so that the law documents what we're doing. I also want to say that, when we are putting together a system, let's make sure that we include people who are going to come in and do that change. When I was talking about immigrants, I have one position here, which is an advocate for immigration issues. And we don't have any requirement of having a legal representative currently for immigrants at the jail. There's none of that. And we never have a requirement of a former detainee. We don't have that. I'm just pointing out some of the details. And the notion that the executive director is going to be appointed and can have a veto on everything that's said within this process, I find that very outrageous. So I would say, please, let's take time, and look at some of these details. Otherwise, the work that we must have done from the beginning to now is going to be completely thrown away. And I really appreciate the inputs of our religious leaders who are here, who've been on this journey, and everybody who has come to the stakeholders meetings, and everyone has been at these meetings listening and obviously, taking stock and going out there outreach to the population. I want to thank them for supporting something that's a better, improved version of what we have on hand right now. Again, I want the word immigration
Time's
to be
up.
remembered when we word this bill. Thank you.
Good evening, Freeholders. Excuse me. Whitney Strube, Newark. I'm the co-chair of the North New Jersey Democratic Socialists of America. And I'm proud to say that I was arrested earlier this month with a dozen of my Jewish and immigrant comrades blocking Broad Street in front of the ICE building for Never Again Action's protest in Newark. And while we were out there in Broad Street for about 2 hours before the Newark police took us in, I had a lot of time to reflect on the endless and needless suffering of those people affected by ICE's Gestapo regime of racism and terror, and just how little you've done in the many years you've been profiting from this, taking $50 million from them while committing $750,000 toward legal fees, which is less than 2%. Claiming to enforce this contract to keep immigrants near their families and lawyers while they don't have lawyers, and while you're taking people from the southern border, an act of human trafficking for profit. And in the spirit of that critique, I'd like to read you North Jersey DSA's statement on the civilian task force. It's 3 points. 1, we support a truly independent civilian review board that will support the rights of detainees and inmates en route to the closing of the ICE contract and all immigrant detention, as well as the closing of the jail and the abolition of the entire carceral state. 2, however, this is not that body, and we reject County Executive Joseph DiVincenzo, whose past words and actions show he cannot be trusted to humanely run the facility he uses as a tool of revenue generation. We cannot use him in any role whatsoever in making appointments or exercising influence over this body. Judge Linares, who he has tapped for executive director, is a man of no small accomplishment. We recognize that. He's also Joe D's college football buddy. As such, he lacks the necessary distance to run a truly independent body, and frankly, as a member as recently as 2010 of the Republican Party, an organization defined by its rank bigotry, misogyny, homophobia, and nativism, we inherently distrust his capacity to stand up for our marginalized and vulnerable community members inside ECCF. Finally, while we respect our comrades at the ACLU calling this a critical step forward, we also know that politically this is intended as the one and final step. It is insufficient, and we reject such half measures. We demand a truly independent civilian review board, not a cosmetic public relations gesture in the form of this task force. Joe DiVincenzo must be removed entirely from the process of forming and administering this body, period. And I do have one formal question for the record, which is the most recent reporting on Judge Linares' political positions that I've seen is from 2010. So I would like a written response. Is Judge Linares still a member of the Republican Party, please? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Rizzo. I'm a resident of Newark, New Jersey, and I teach at Rutgers University in Newark. I am here, like many of my comrades, to speak about the ordinance. And like them, I appreciate that this is a step forward, but this is only a very, very small baby step. There are a number of areas of concern. You've heard a number of them already, and I'd like to raise a couple more that I don't think have been brought up. But just to reiterate that this is not in lieu of closing the Essex County Correctional Facility and ending immigrant detention. But we do need a review board in the meanwhile while that process is happening. So I am not a lawyer, but I've read the ordinance very carefully, and I have some questions that I would like to see addressed. One, throughout the ordinance, the phrase used is systematic conditions or systemic issues in terms of what the task force can address. The language systemic condition is never explained. So this seems to me like it's potentially a way to exclude certain issues from being considered by the task force if they are not deemed systemic. So I think it is very critical that we have a definition of what systemic conditions mean and how that is being defined. Secondly, provision 3A4 reads that, quote, the county executive shall retain the authority to remove any of the above mentioned members for cause. end quote. Given that the executive is the head of this facility who refuses to be accountable to the public and has allowed mistreatment to occur for years at the facility, it's easy to imagine his power to remove members of this task force for cause as being easily abused. There is no mention, as far as I can tell in the ordinance, of how someone who is removed from this task force by the executive for cause would appeal that decision. That seems like an oversight. 3, why is there no provision for public reporting by the task force? This task force exists because of residents protesting about it. It is in response to public concern. So this task force should appear at least twice a year, if not more, at freeholders meetings to report to the public on the work it is doing while maintaining confidentiality. Now finally, and I think this is most concerning, in the proposal, as far as I understand it, once the task force investigates an incident, it will then make suggestions to the administration on how to deal with that. And then if the administration decides not to do anything, it just has to send a
30
letter.
seconds.
Just has to send a letter explaining why they're not going to do anything. As far as I can tell, there's no appeal process or further action. So that, combined with the lack of public transparency, suggests that this task force would actually be working from the get-go with its hands tied behind its back. So again, I think these issues, along with all the other ones that are being brought up by my colleagues here, must be addressed before this moves forward. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Adam Kramer. I'm the Republican nominee for Freeholder in Essex County. I've come here, as I have on every meeting going back to August, to respectfully request an open civil public debate for the office of Freeholder. There has not been a public debate for the office of Freeholder in many, many years. And I think that the lack of that public debate is a stain on the democratic process in this county. I've come here to ask Ms. Graham, my opponent, who is taken over from by appointment from the late Levy Jones. I notice she's absent again. Her attendance record is now less than 75% since she took office, and she's absent from the debate. Not a very good commentary on our democracy in this place. I also want to correct the record that some of these good folks have said about what's going on. First of all, Republicans aren't by definition misogynist, racist, or anything else. We just have a view that limited government.
Please respect everyone's
We just have a
right to
view
speak.
that limited governance is better governance. I'd also like to remind people that we're the party of Lincoln. We're the party that steered the Civil Rights Act through the Senate over the Dixiecrats, who were segregationists. I'd also like to remind people that there can be respectful disagreements on how we deal with immigration policy and immigration law. Whatever you think, whether or not you're documented or not, you're still entitled to your humanity. But that doesn't mean that immigration laws don't have to be enforced. That doesn't mean we don't have to have rule of law and borders. Back in 2004, I spoke before this body about not starting this project in 2014 because of the moral hazard of for-profit jails. It's come somewhat true. But now we're here. I think we have to steer it through, and I think getting rid of it would be a mistake, because if we ended the contract, these ICE detainees wouldn't be just let loose. They'd be transported to the interior of the country and held further away from their families and further away from good immigration attorneys. So we have to steer this through. We have to do our best to respect the rule of law and the humanity of those detained. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Charlotte Galler, Mama Meow, cat lady. The reason why I'm here is that this is a very serious issue. Nobody pays attention to it because they don't care. They think that cats don't have souls, cats don't have any kind of feelings. I am very proud that the Essex County Freeholders has finally made a resolution for a National Feral Cat Day, or now it's called Global Cat Day, to make the clueless become educated of how important in your neighborhood, in Newark, in Bloomfield, in every city and town, one cat is 20,000 in 4 years. Now, this resolution, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's very important tonight what we're speaking about, but there's two issues here. One is every year, 9 million dogs and cats are put down because shelters can't find a home for them. By lowering the number of strays that are put in shelter, we can drastically cut back the number of animals that must be euthanized. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. I come here all the time to tell you, we have rescuers giving up their lives, giving up their money, giving up their times, taking care of cats and dogs that belong to the Essex County, that belong to each town, that belong to each city, and belong to all the ICs and all these people in this room. This is a situation that should have been taken care of years ago. I am very proud of you that you have become bold. In fact, you're becoming the role models of others to say, wow, Essex County's taken that step. I'm not being funny. Union County wants to follow you. Monmouth County wants to follow you. You're making a difference in the state of New Jersey. I'm going to wrap this up by saying this much. It might not be important to you, but it's important to a cat when he freezes to death. It's important when you find a cat that has a broken jaw and nobody cares to let it eat. It's important when you see people, you talk about people suffering. What about these animals that are taken as kittens and then abandoned and nobody cares? Go down to Newark, by that jail. I'm sure there's thousands of cats there. They don't notice those cats, and they're not interested. They say, oh, the cat lady, there she goes again. No, this is an issue for every single person that has compassion, a heart, and a soul, because those cats have a soul and a heart. And if you don't like them, I don't care if you like them or not. It's a part of the human being. We have all rabbis here. We have all kinds of denominations of churches.
30 seconds.
I want them to get involved and say, yes, you're right. It is a life, and it's a creation of God. Let's make a difference. And real quick, October the 26th, this Saturday, is Make a Difference Day. What are you doing in your community to make a difference? It's very important. As a former chairperson in Irvington for 10 years, I appreciate that. You're making a difference tonight with this. Thank you very much for this resolution. It is going to be hung, and tell everybody, Essex County is being put first for our feral cats. Thank you again.
Good evening. My name is Jay Arena, and I am with the Jobs and Equal Rights for All campaign. ICE out of Newark now. ICE out of Newark now. ICE out of Newark now. Mr. Gill, you began your presentation this evening by patting yourself on the back and your colleagues that you're delivering to the demands of the people by creating this great task force. Well, let me be clear. When we began this movement 2 years ago, last month, when you were just a regular freeholder and your good progressive friend Brittany Timberlake was the president, we came here not to make a more humane concentration camp. We didn't come here to improve the concentration camp. We came to close it, and that is why we are here today, and we will continue this fight. As you can see, this movement is growing. We are going to continue to fight. We will continue to come to the doors of the Hall of Records and to demand that Joe D., Deportation Joe, the boss of Mr. Alasia, Mr. Mercado's good friend from the same rotten reactionary Autobotto machine that's carried out all kinds of attacks in this city, we will continue to demand that he close it, in spite of thugs like this sheriff who brutalized us. You won't even say his name, who brutalized us, and you can catch it on YouTube. We will continue to fight. We will continue to march like we did October 12th as part of a national movement to close the concentration camps that, yes, are run by the Republicans and the Democrats. So I do agree with a bit of what our earlier speaker said. It is a bipartisan operation, and that is no clearer than in deep blue New Jersey and deep blue Essex County. This phony task force that you put together, putting one of Joe D's hacks, and you'll load them up with other hacks, is not what we have been demanding. We demand the closure of this ICE concentration camp and reduction of the criminal side too. We want to shrink these criminal side as much as possible. They're used to attack poor people or a racist attack. And this movement is going to continue. And we know the past reforms. We marched to your rotten concentration camp, all the way there. We almost gagged on the way
20
there.
seconds.
Many of us were there. So that has to end. That was supposedly a reform, opening up that new jail, closing your old decrepit 19th century one. That must end. And also your farce here. I've been coming to these for 2 years, and we regularly see you having these ceremonies, honoring the Irish and the immigrants, their immigrant ancestors, and Jewish immigrants and their ancestors. And now today, it's the Italians you're honoring. And I know Mr. Alesi's so proud of his Italian heritage and deportation, Joe. If they're so proud of their immigrant ancestors, the best thing you can do, instead of holding these phony little parties with crappy food that are really disgrace to Italian-American cuisine, end this concentration camp. That's the way you honor immigrants. That's the way you honor your parents.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, freeholders. My name is Alejandro Jaramillo, and I am from the Cosecha Newark Circle. You know me well, and I won't tell you more about my background. In the face of the incompetence of Essex County freeholders and Joe D., the civil task force may be a good idea. However, President Gill, I want to correct your record. Hundreds of constituents have requested the end of the ICE contract and not a civilian task force. It is interesting how all of you speak in favor of a task force appointed by Joy D. and work out behind closed doors. However, when people have asked for the stand of each of you with regards to ending the ICE contract, there is silence and no response and no accountability. This task force may be good intended, but it looks more like a shield for the freeholders and Joe D. to shift accountability to others. I am here to remind all of you that the solution is to close the camp, end the contract, and stop profiting, jailing innocent immigrants, and breaking up families. The civilian task force does not stop the illegal detentions, inflicted harm to immigrants, and $35 million of blood money. You have blood money in your hands, and it seems that you want to clean the blood in your hands with a civilian task force of your convenience. I don't dismiss the value of a civilian task force, but there has been many protests and people have been gotten arrested here in Newark to close the camps and the Essex County ICE contract and not to have a civilian task force. That have been their demands when people have been arrested in Broad Street. Also, I want to know what is the status of a letter that I requested that this body sends to Assembly Speaker Coughlin and Senate President Sweeney demanding the passage of the driver license bill. The Democrats in the legislation are complicit, breaking up families in New Jersey by not passing the driver license bill. 50% of the ICE detention are due to traffic violations. And there is a correlation. If they pass the driver license bill, they cut the blood money in half for Jody and for Bergen and for Hudson. So I'm sure that the Democrats in Trenton are thinking about that, right? That they are going to cut the blood money, and they're going to cut the blood money for Atlantic County also. So I invite all people here to join us
30
tomorrow
seconds.
at Peter Francisco Park in Newark at 4 p.m. across the Penn Station for a march for a driver license, close the camps, and end the ICE contract in Newark. Close the camps now. Get ICE out of Newark.
Close the camps now.
Good evening. My name is William Graves. I live in the Tuxedo Park section of South Orange. I'm a member of Soma Action, the Voting Rights Committee, and I want to echo the remarks made by the first speaker, Holly Gautier, about the need for voter-marked paper ballots with optical scanners. You need to make sure that when people come into the voting place for the first time and experience those ballots, that they're not confused and that they know exactly what the drill is. As I've been standing here, I remember I voted in every election since 1960 when I enthusiastically cast my first ballot for John Fitzgerald Kennedy. And with that experience, it's easy to go in and cast your ballot. For an 18 or 21 or 25-year-old who's a first-time voter, or even a 40 or 50-year-old who's a first-time voter, they need education. Please give it to them. Thank you very much.
I'm David Greenstein, Rabbi at Congregation Shomrei Emunah in Montclair, New Jersey. Good evening to everyone. I'm here along with many clergy who are here and many clergy who couldn't be here or are doing good work but who can't make it here tonight. We represent thousands and thousands of families who share the concerns that have been voiced here this evening by representatives of ACLU and other stakeholders in the issue of how to make the civilian task force a better instrument for justice and for righteousness. Our tradition, my Jewish tradition, teaches us that when a person has control over somebody else, and that happens all the time, that power puts deep responsibilities upon that person. The Torah, our Bible, teaches us that a person who is under the control and power of somebody else needs to feel the tov lo imach, that it's just as good for him or her as it is for you, that the food they eat is the same food that you would eat, that the place that they sleep on is a place that you would sleep on. Those kinds of conditions sound utopian, but they set a bar for us to strive for. There is no shame in being responsive rather than being proactive. It's a great thing when somebody thinks of something on their own, but to claim proactiveness instead of responsiveness is not necessary. You've heard so many constructive suggestions and demands this evening. It doesn't work to tell people that it's clear, isn't it? It's clear, when people are telling you it's not clear. So the idea of talking these things through, of continuing the conversation rather than closing it down, is essential for the well-being of this place and this society. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jeff Lukowitz with the North New Jersey DSA. You might remember I spoke in front of you a few months ago, getting pretty choked up about making an appeal to your basic human decency and moral judgment about ending the ICE contracts. I'd hoped to contextualize the present moment through the lens of my son, the descendant of Holocaust survivors and immigrants, who will one day ask me why his Latino family and community is subject to the same kind of treatment his Jewish and Polish family was 80 years ago. I asked you how I was supposed to explain this to him, and I heard your answer. So, my comrades and I got to work. Since that day, members of the immigrant justice community have organized several civil disobedience actions. Some staged concerts in front of the Essex County camp. Some Catholic leaders and groups laid down in the street in front of the ICE field office. Some conducted marches from Peter Francisco Park down to the Essex County camp. Some have occupied Assemblyman's office, calling attention to the need of passing driver's licenses for all. Some have been holding actions every Sunday night at all 4 camps in New Jersey. You even threw a few of my comrades out of a recent Freeholder meeting. I was lucky to participate in the Never Again action on October 3rd. The National Never Again campaign started right here in New Jersey and has executed nearly 30 actions nationwide in calling for the closing of the camps. In Newark, roughly 250 Jews, immigrants, and allies showed up at rush hour on a rainy Thursday afternoon to say never again in front of the ICE field office, recognizing the close relationship between the present moment and that of the 30s and 40s. We had support from more than 20 different groups, many of whom were Jewish and immigrant-led, showing solidarity and representing thousands of their own members and, by extension, their families, friends, neighbors, and coworkers. Almost 50 people put their bodies on the line to block traffic and end business as usual on Broad Street for 2 hours. 13 of us were arrested. We received loads of support from pedestrians, online viewers, media sources, congregants, and other organizations who now join our networks. And all that's to say, this movement is growing. I want to ask if everyone here who is in favor of a true civilian review board, who is a driver's license, in favor of driver's license for all, and for closing the camps, if you could please stand up, I'd appreciate it, just to show how many of us are here today. We've been working together in spite of our political, religious, race, and class divisions. We've been building relationships and learning from each other. We've been reaching deeper into the community and grabbing the attention of the nation, and we're still playing nice. We hope our escalation these last couple of months proves that we're willing to meet your obstinance with mounting pressure.
30 seconds.
We also hope you understand that we have shown restraint. What else can we accomplish in the next 2 months? How many more of us will there be? And what other tactics will you force us to resort to? Somewhere in the future, there's an end date for these ICE contracts with your names on them. It will be what defines your entire careers, probably your lives. You will be little more than administrators of detention camps, but we are going to win this. And this countdown clock is not for me, it's for you.
Good evening, President Gill, freeholders. I am Cantor Erica Lippitz of Oheb Shalom in South Orange. I listened to what has been said tonight, and I am proud that in Essex County, we do not have a situation in which those who might live west of Newark would wash their hands and not feel compelled and responsible to make corrections and to do our best. That is our opportunity. Friends, you have so much skill to tap, so much intelligence, so much integrity here. All the people whom I and others tonight have come to represent, we're ready to get this job done right and with you. Can we not turn all the energy spent in worrying or shielding, can we not turn that around and make this place better together? Don't you want the task force? Don't you want those reports to be public because you have nothing to hide? Don't you want this entire process and development to be public because you don't want people who grow up in this part of New Jersey to bear the kind of cynicism that I fear we are creating in the next generation when they look at federal levels of crime and see no response. Don't we want to do better? There are so many people of goodwill here. Not only the Faith in Action clergy who are expanding and expanding. This word is out in every congregation in my area. They care. They care. They are ready to partner with you. Can we not work on this together? And can we not do so because really what we want at the end is something we could all be proud of? Thank you very much.
Matt Dragon, West Orange. Thank you to the freeholders and administration for putting forward an ordinance that is a first step in the process of instituting civilian oversight of the county jail. I have some questions that I would appreciate responses to so as to better inform the public before it comes up on second reading. Section 3A2, the chair holds a great deal of power. What is the rationale for having them be selected by the county executive, not elected within the task force? Section 3A3, the executive director has a lot of implicit power, like writing the bylaws, and explicit power, performing review of internal documents. What is the rationale for that position being appointed by the county executive and not requiring advice and consent of the freeholders or input from the community? 3A4, will resumes and other information about nominees be shared with the public when provided to the freeholders, or will we have to Oprah for them, not having them in hand before the freeholders have already advised and consented? 3B2, would that be understood to preclude any Essex County politician or municipal leadership position in a municipality that has received county funds? What about nonprofit boards or leadership who have received county funds as grants or for services they provide? 5B6, tracking retaliation or intimidation is a great step. What about notifications to the task force or monthly reporting of additional incidents that involve ECCF staff that have prior or ongoing complaints against them? 5B7, 5B7, what if the retaliation or intimidation is being done by someone who is employed by Essex County outside of the ECCF staff? 5C1, what policies and procedures from ECCF or ICE are likely to limit information gathering by the task force? What policies were being thought of when that carve-out was added to the ordinance? 5D1, the chair controlling access to the facility by any task force member puts an incredible amount of power in that position. Why not share that responsibility among a subcommittee? 5F4, executive director has special document review privileges. It would be much stronger to have a full subcommittee empowered to perform that task, as the executive director is already an extremely powerful position and the only position appointed solely at the discretion of the county executive. Those members could all have whatever additional training or confidentiality agreement required to do that work effectively and uphold whatever standards are agreed to. 6A5, why may
30
make the
seconds.
reports available instead of must or should. Any reports created by this task force are to provide oversight of the facility and therefore should be publicly released. 8A1, you and the administration are establishing this task force. So why have the members, including 2 ultra-powerful positions among them directly appointed by the county executive, decide if the task force should be disbanded? They could just resign if they feel it is not of value anymore. These are Joe D. prisoners, your prisoners, our
Time's
prisoners,
up.
my prisoners, and maybe soon the task force's prisoners. Please act accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, just for the record, we will make sure to respond to all questions raised here tonight in writing. Would just say that some of those issues that have been raised were discussed quite a bit, so and happy to explain when we respond in writing some of the rationale. Again, would also just want to reiterate, and this I say this not to say that that we're not taking all this input as we go through this process very seriously, but there is a provision in the ordinance to make all of the reports public. I can tell you, I believe I can speak on behalf of my colleague, Vice President Richardson, on this as well, that we had no intention of going through this process, and the administration, if I may, Phil, and not to make the reports public. So that is, we can discuss the language potentially as we move forward, but there is every intention to make sure that when this operates, that the reports are made public when they're submitted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rabbi Ariane Weitzman. I'm a resident of West Orange, and I serve B'nai Keshet in Montclair, New Jersey. We are a member of the Montclair Sanctuary Alliance, acting to house undocumented immigrants in danger of deportation, and I'm also a member of Faith in Essex. And I want to just notice the tenor of this room, which is actually quite different from many of the meetings that I've been to around this issue. And the thing that I think is different, our general level of anger seems to be a little bit lower than it has often been. I think what's different is that there's something to respond to. And there's often a feeling in this room of shouting into the void. And I've noticed for myself, I've been able to meet with several of you as part of teams of clergy and lay people who are engaged around the issue of cleaning up Essex County Correctional Facility. And I've noticed that in the ability to have those meetings, we've been able to lower the tenor of the conversation and be more productive. So I see that this ordinance comes out of a response, a real try to respond to the concerns of thousands of constituents, the many, many, many thousands of hours that advocacy groups and individuals have put into appealing to the better nature of this board. And that's really something that we can applaud about your constituencies. And I really appreciate that there's a response. And I just want to call out that when there is a response, when there's something to respond to, that we're able to have really productive conversation. So I hope that that continues. And I want to just say that I did read the ordinance several times, and I am not a lawyer, but it was extraordinarily unclear to me that there was any provision for making the task force's reports public, and that needs to be extraordinarily clear. Throughout the many months that I've now been engaged in coming to these meetings or meeting with freeholders, there's been a general lack of transparency. That transparency also feels to be missing in this ordinance. Transparency needs to be the highest order. If this is a civilian task force, then the goal is for the civilians to be aware of what's going on in the jail and what needs to be improved and what are the issues at hand. So I would really recommend that transparency and accountability be the #1 issues that this task force is engaged in. The second thing is that we heard from Mr. Elijah that there is an internal detainee advocate now appointed. We continue to request and demand that there be an independent detainee advocate along the lines of what is happening at the Hudson County Correctional Facility, somebody who is not internal to the system. There's
30
really
seconds.
a question about whether or not somebody who is internal to the system can really have the ear of detainees and of other incarcerated people in the jail. So thank you very much.
Good evening, freeholders. My name is Jessica Brader. I live in Bloomfield. Hello, Mr. Pomeras. And I'm a member of B'nai Keshet. I'm here this evening as part of Faith in Essex and also representing the Montclair Sanctuary Alliance. So I've had the pleasure of meeting with every single one of you except for you, Mr. Johnson. And my question for the record this evening is for you. I'd like to know what are 3 dates and times when you are available to meet with Faith in Essex clergy. And I'll look forward to receiving your letter in the mail. As a person of faith and an Essex County resident, I feel strongly about the need to protect the most vulnerable among us. I'm very pleased to see that there's a potential first step forward here in providing meaningful protections to people detained or incarcerated at the Essex County Correctional Facility, particularly following the 2 cases of alleged sexual abuse that have come out in just 2 months, the past 2 months. And I'd just like to echo what many of my colleagues have said here this evening. I understand that perhaps your intention is to make the nomination process to the task force collaborative and transparent, but it's not clear from the writing of the ordinance that that's the case. So it would be great if you could make the public aware of what the process is going to be for nominating and evaluating potential board members. I'd also like to echo the concern that it's not clear at all from the ordinance that the county will be required to make all of the task force reports public. I also want to echo the concern about the lack of an independent detainee advocate based on the Hudson County model. We can provide you with some job description for that if you'd like to see it. We'd like to see that role appointed to the task force to review all complaints and grievances. And so I'd like to ask that the county executive, the board of freeholders commit to allowing the Civilian Oversight Task Force to operate independently and with transparency. Thank you very much.
My name is Kathy O'Leary. I'm with Pax Christi, New Jersey. We are a Catholic peace and justice organization. And I've been coming here since about 2011. I wish I could join my colleagues in celebrating or even thanking the Freeholder Board for this ordinance, but I first need to point out that we asked for this oversight board prior to the Freeholder Board approving the contract in 2011. You are 8 years late. In the interim, there have been numerous reports that have echoed the findings of the DHS report. All of them have been ignored by this board. From a faith perspective, if someone were to stop sinning, say a man swears off drinking, the drinking that leads to him beating his wife and children, that is a cause for celebration. But that is not what we have here. It is more like a man who invites us to monitor his home so that he doesn't drink too much or beat his children too severely. The drink, in this case, is the ice money. And until we remove that source, we will still have the oppression of our brothers and sisters who are incarcerated in your jail. And it's not just the ICE money, it is also the money that you receive from those criminal inmates, whether that be from overcharging for phone calls or overcharging for commissary items. And I'm sure there are plenty of other ways that you make money off of that jail as well. I'd like to read to you from Amos. This was the theme of one of our pilgrimages, where we started in Jersey City and walked to the Elizabeth Detention Center. Chapter 2, verses 6 and 7. For 3 sins of Israel, even for 4, I will not relent. They sell the innocent for silver and the needy for a pair of sandals. They trample on the heads of the poor as on the dust of the ground and deny justice to the oppressed. What I want you to know is that we will not have justice until this contract is terminated and all the detention camps are closed. We will also not have justice until you stop seeing the people who you incarcerate, who you are responsible for. You are responsible for their care, until you stop seeing
30
them
seconds.
as sources of revenue. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bruce Esrig, and I reside in Madison, New Jersey. So, Mr. Gill, thank you very much for your correspondence. I acknowledge that there are many good steps being taken by this body. I would like to ask that the 5 criteria that I listed in my letter to the Board of Freeholders be entered into the record with my comments. Starting with, as a theme, a civilian task force that is constituted for oversight should have a means to report to the public contemporaneously what it is learning, and then the 5 items. I would like to add another one. There should be a protection, and it may already be there, but I would like to check that the training required of the members of the board not be used as a method of disqualifying members of the board, but that because there is agreement between the board and the members of the task force on how the training will be constituted, that protection may already be there. Finally, I do feel that it would be very helpful for the county, either through the task force or through some other means, to be able to publish ethical principles and connect those with actual behavior and behavior changes that are affecting detainees at the correctional facility. So, for example, if you take a look at international law, or you take a look at the International Convention on Human Rights, you can see many, 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 many protections which are summarized as rights in the ordinance. But if we could explicitly acknowledge that there are high standards to be met, and that communication should not only be addressing procedural matters, but also matters that expand upon those rights and treat the detainees as fellow human beings in unfortunate situations seeking a best outcome. I think that would be most welcome. It would be appreciated by the public.
I'm Pamela McElvin, the Palm Tree Block Association, advocating for Bellsbury Park.
Please speak into the mic.
Advocating for Bellsbury Park. I received a letter in reference to krill and the food program. I don't know if all of you guys read it. It's basically saying to sum it all up from, I guess from Krill, the coal mills that Bellswood Park is receiving, they claim that the kitchen, due to the kitchen, but they had all the reports, everything passed. So it's not due to the kitchen because they waiting for the water results. Then they contradict themselves and it says which have came back satisfactory. So there's not an issue with the kitchen. But they also say, well, you know, decided the Bellsbury Park for lunches have decided serving a cold lunch was a better option than no lunch. So you just take what we give you. That's basically what they're saying. Okay, but I see there, now that I'm getting into it more, I have a list of stuff that's wrong. I see they're trying to put a soccer field in Bellswood Park. Why would you want to put a soccer field? The ground is not level. I have pictures. This is our senior building. Beautiful. Beautiful. I was there Monday. Well, people was there enjoying themselves playing games. But the problem is Krill, Senior Services, and UCC. This is our baseball field. It got grass growing up in there. This is one of the ladies working with me. It's a big hump. The whole field, and you want to put a soccer field there. Why? Eastern Orange Park and Weekway Park has the soccer field. I asked you once before to turn the water fountain off. This is the water fountain that's on, okay? This is the filter that's inside of it that have not been changed since 1/31 of this year. The data's on here. And the kids is using this. There's no lights because I went there and talked to some of the kids playing basketball. None of the lights work. None of the lights work. When all the lights was working, you can see from Orrington Parkway all the way up to Munn Avenue, the whole park. Most of the lights don't work. The person that, I might be on my list, did the fence, he's supposed to have been pruning trees. He didn't prune any trees where around the playground. He pruned the trees near Oregon Parkway because that's where all the traffic. So that side looked nice. I met a guy, he did something called surface testing of the play area. But guess what? That surface
Time is up.
is dangerous. He did the testing of the, okay, and it's, who's the maintenance person? Who keep up with the contractors? Okay, it's so many contractors there, but who watch them? Who oversee them? The park, and I found out that we had a subcontractor now that don't cut the grass. The grass is brown. It's not even green anymore. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rabbi David Weisberg. I am a rabbi at Temple B'nai Abraham in Livingston and a resident of Maplewood. First, thank you for the baby steps that we have made in improving the situation at the jail. I don't want to repeat what has been said. There have been a lot of important things said this evening. One principle that I want to share that is of absolute importance, and I think an important lesson to all of us from the Jewish tradition, it's the principle of chavruta, that when we approach anything of importance, it's understood that we should never do anything on our own, that we should always plan, that we should always learn, that we should always grow in consultation and conversation with someone else. And the idea there is that we're probably not going to agree. We might even butt heads. We might even fight. But that ultimately we should be coming to a solution together, because when the two minds join, when the two minds encounter each other, we will sharpen each other and come up with a better result. So I think the civilian oversight is so important. And I think the partnership between the leadership and the public is so important. So please continue doing whatever you can to ensure that that chavruta, that partnership remains strong and can even increase. The second thing that I want to share is more so me as a citizen than me as a rabbi. I just became a citizen of the United States last October. Thank you. And the reason I became a citizen at this point in time is because I was afraid of what could potentially happen to me. Because there are so many unknowns in this era in which we live that as a green card holder, even with all of the privilege that I have, and I acknowledge I have a lot of these privileges, when I walked in for my immigration interview, the guard saw me in my suit with my briefcase
30
and
seconds.
said, "Who's your client?" I said, "My wife's actually the attorney." There are so many unknowns. And it is terrifying to be someone who does not in some way have every protection under the law. So please, the more transparency you can give, the safer we will all feel.
Yael Weber with Never Again Newark. My pronouns are she and her. I would like to start by asking why we have a moment of silence at the beginning of every meeting. It's never been explained, and there's always this kind of awkward moment where everyone sits down and then we're told to stand back up. So if I could get a response as to why I have a moment of silence, that would be lovely. I'm not going to reiterate the points that everyone has made, but I stand fully in support of most of the recommendations that have been made for making the civilian task force something that can actually do what it's intended to do. I also would like to second Alejandro's request for a letter to Coughlin and Sweeney demanding that they bring the driver's license bill to a vote. It is shameful that they have refused to do so to this point. Freeholder President Gill, you started this meeting by telling us that Judge Linares is going to be the executive director of this as yet unformed task force. And a few minutes later, you told us that the public would have input on all the task force appointees. So regardless of the truth of that statement, you must be aware that it has the appearance of being somewhat other than completely above board. A lot of trust has been lost here, and I think that people are really feeling that there needs to be very clear accountability, that this can't be a rubber stamp for what Joe D wants from his buddies. We do need independent oversight, particularly because we know that the incarcerated folks on the other side of the jail are not getting any better treatment than the ICE detainees. However, this does nothing to address the urgent need to end the ICE contracts and to close the concentration camps. There is a growing movement. There is a lot of energy and passion behind this. We're not going away. The calls to end the contracts are only getting stronger, and I urge you to act now. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Charlene Walker, and I'm the Executive Director of Faith in New Jersey. Faith in New Jersey is an interfaith coalition of about over 170 interfaith organizations, faith-based organizations. That means that we represent thousands of voting constituents within Essex County. So if faith leaders are here asking for clarification, I just want to be clear that is thousands of people asking for clarifications that things are not clear, unfortunately, as much as we hope that it is. I also want to be clear that as people of faith, we believe in the abolishment of all systems that profit off of black and brown bodies, for God's precious children cannot be commodified. Our faith tells us that even though we have embarked upon a journey of abolition, while doing so, we must care for those we fight for in the process. This task force is how we care for those we have not reached yet, but carry in our hearts. This task force is how we show God's love by saying we have not forgotten you, and we will make sure you are well. See, we take our faith seriously. As such, we ask that you ensure this task force is a true extension of the phrase we all know, love thy neighbor. How? You do this by making sure this task force is designed for our neighbors, by our neighbors. This process must be transparent with advocacy groups and those this task force seeks to support, providing the nominations. And I know that you say that this is written in the plan, but apparently it's just not clear. It doesn't say that, and this is a grassroots organization, and we believe wholeheartedly that those that are impacted should be at the table, and there should be more than one voice at the table. If it comes from a coalition, that's perfect because it would represent multiple people. We also ask that the task force reports be public record for added transparency as well as community ownership. And lastly, we are a faith-based organization always guided by the moral voice of our collective faith traditions. We ask that the task force include a representative of interfaith organizations like Faith in New Jersey's Essex County chapter to ensure that the inherent worth and dignity of all people is seen while completing this important work. The task force needs that
30
moral
seconds.
voice. Once again, thank you for helping us bring the task force to reality. However, we still have a ways to go, and we want to be at the table, and we expect all of those impacted at the table as well.
Good evening. Gregory Palmer, President of the Sheriff Superior's PBA 183A and an Essex County resident. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my members, not on behalf of the sheriff or our department. I and no one I know wants prisoners mistreated. They all have a right to and should be provided with clean, humane facilities and treatment. With today's advanced and thorough training of officers, as well as the monitored, up-to-date Essex County Jail itself, no one is being housed in the dungeon-like conditions we see in old movies. In addition, I trust the professionals that our administration has chosen to lead and oversee the jail. They, along with the county executive and the Board of Freeholders, ensure that we have a proper, well-run facility. With the aforementioned in mind, the fact that this board is even considering a civilian review board is a direct insult and slap in the face to all the officers, supervisors, and civilian leaders at the jail. The board should not be pandering to certain groups who never will be satisfied, which is obvious tonight.
I'm going to ask you to be removed, please. Allow him to finish.
Who, as we have seen in the past and right now, are more concerned with disrupting meetings in government facilities than the actual inmates. Approval of this ordinance will cause nothing but harm and hinder the efficient operation of the jail, as well as making the jail less safe for both officers and inmates. It also will put an unnecessary burden on the taxpayers of Essex County. Therefore, I urge all of you to vote no on this ordinance. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cindy Matute Brown. I am a resident of West Orange, councilwoman in West Orange, but I am here as a representative of the Steering Committee of Essex Rising. I wasn't intending to talk, but I had made some points that I did not hear echoed earlier, so I do want some responses to my inquiries. But first I want to take a moment of personal privilege just to say I'm really happy to see my constituents out here. So much of West Orange representation is here, and I love you all for it. And thank you to the Board of Chosen Freeholders. I am happy that this is a first step in the right direction. I don't want to say I had the privilege, but I did have the benefit of insight to tour the facility once that report came out. A few of the elected officials in Essex County, I called, and Mr. Elijah set up a date, and we showed up. I'm happy to see that things were very different than the report showed. I'm very much twixt in between as a first-generation immigrant to this country to call for the immediate closure of the detention centers for two reasons. And I share this, and it's a personal part of my pain, because I had an uncle who was detained, eventually deported. And he was detained 8 hours from here, and my grandmother could not see him. He died before she could see him. She saw him when he was buried. That access is very important. And I understand the need not to profit, and I support that. I don't want any government agency to profit from anyone. I do want us to continue those conversations, look towards what other states have done, have conversations with Governor Murphy, look to see how we end the profiting of private prisons, and eventually close these detention centers. But I also am very conscious of not just the detainees in, the immigration detainees in the Essex County facility. There are other inmates, some who have not even been charged or adjudicated, that are maintained there, and they also have needs. I think that this Oversight Civilian Board, if in fact independent and done right, can be beneficial to all of us. So my questions, I see the time is quickly running. I'm asking why the bylaws are going to not be codified by the members who are placed or elected onto this committee. They should not be done by one independent executive. And while I really do appreciate the diverse backgrounds for what every representation is there, which you enumerated, thank you. I didn't see anyone with a financial background that would be beneficial to a committee with respect to how we're spending taxpayer dollars. And also, with respect to the authority of the county executive to just remove someone, that needs to be clarified as to what is caused. And there is a 120-day timeline before the task force can review any incident. I just want to have a response to that, obviously in writing. What was the conversation? What were the considerations that were made with respect to that choice and that decision? And also, lastly, the requirements for anyone to be appointed, right, either on the advice and appointment, right, or vote of the freeholders, the freeholder board, there are some qualifications which I agree should remain, but what are the qualifications for a member of the public? How does a member of the public qualify? They give you a resume, what happens then? What are those qualifications? So if you can express those to me, I would really, really appreciate it. And I do want to say thank you. These are conversations that have been happening for a long time. It's a step in the right direction, but this is the beginning of a conversation, and I am happy that I see now a lot of my newly elected officials in Essex County also wanting to be more involved in this level. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, K-Sound Little, Elizabeth, New Jersey. Before I continue, I just want to say, you know, while the Civilian Review Board is the minor step in the right direction, and as many people who came before you today this evening stated, that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, a ton of work that needs to be done. And the fact that you are participating in the acts of profiteering off of human beings, you are participating in the acts of inhumane conditions, inhumane living conditions. And the fact that these kids are continuously, still to this day, are being ripped from their parents' arms and are not receiving the love, not receiving that compassion. What about, or what happened if that was your child? And I think I said that to you all again before, but I'll say it again. What happened if that was one of your family members? And before I continue, I just would like to ask that, you know, I don't come here to, and I don't even live in this county, but I don't come here to watch freeholders be on their phones. I don't come here to watch freeholders' foreheads. I want your undivided attention, because I think that's just the most respectful thing to do. In the blood money contract, close the camps. Yes, it is a camp. Close the camps. And since we're saying, oh, Essex County is taking this, or Essex County is doing this, or being the first in the nation to do this, well, how about you be the first in the nation, okay, to sponsor or to sign legislation, county ordinances into law that will protect okay, undocumented families and undocumented individuals in Essex County. How about you be the start of that? Okay, because they deserve to be protected. They're human beings. We bleed the same color blood inside just like we do. Okay? So we're no different than them. It's only a big difference due to some hateful policies that are coming out of the White House, and we all know that it's meant to divide and make us feel little and not whole as individuals. So again, I urge you to stop participating in those many acts you have been participating in, and to also hold Joey D accountable to, might as well say Deportation Joe, accountable to make sure that the process that is coming out of his administration and out of his office is transparent and not the way that he wanted to go. He's supposed to be an elected official too. I know I have 30 seconds, Madam Clerk, you don't have to say it. He's supposed to be an elected official as well. He's supposed to be there to govern, to lead, and to serve people's best interests at heart, not himself. And that goes to all of you, because at the end of the day, you're elected officials. We hold you to a higher standard. You do not hold us to a higher standard. Have a great evening.
Good evening. I just came as an introductory. My name's Juan Alvarado from Belleville, New Jersey. We're the general contractor that was recommended for the award of the Irvington Avenue Streetscape project. I just want to introduce myself. We're a small company, mainly do concrete and specializing now in the streetscape projects that give a visual enhancement to the streets, sometimes lighting, benches, trash receptacles, upgrading the walkways for the pedestrians to be more active, and just wanted to show my face tonight, and I wanted to thank you guys for the opportunity to work here, the Department of Public Works, Engineering Department for the opportunity, and the recommendation for the award. That's it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Satinik Margayan, and I'm resident of Bloomfield, and I'm also a criminologist, and I work at Borough of Manhattan Community College at CUNY. And I wanted to reflect on the claim that this is an independent task force, and I had questions. How is this independence ascertained? Not through the appointment, not through the investigation, because when you look at the resolution and you see that there needs to be 1 hour in advance notification if there is a need for an investigation. And I just don't understand why there is a need for this 1 hour. Actually, like, why does the administration needs to know about it? Also, independence cannot be ascertained if the reporting is only done to the through the administration as opposed to publicly. And so at best, I would call this task force as an internal monitoring organ, and which is great. It's excellent to have an internal monitoring board. It's very important to have the capacity for oversight. Perhaps it would be best to appoint an ombudsman rather than a task force. Then we will know who is the single person who is responsible for monitoring the conditions. And let's not cloud the conversation about, independent or oversight, because this is not an independent oversight. I disagree with that kind of qualifications, and I was really disappointed to see this structure, put forward. I would like to tell you that there are standards that exist that regulate establishment of such oversight commissions. For instance, if you don't want to look at the international experiences, that's fine. You can look at the American Bar Association standards. They do have standards that they have written especially for this purpose. They're called ABA Treatment of Prisoner Standards, and Standard 23-11.3 is all about how to set up external
30 seconds.
monitoring and inspection. So I would like to ask you to consult not only with people here, which is excellent, but also with the standards and existing organizations here in the United States and also elsewhere internationally. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm probably the last person you guys want to hear from. Oh, I'm the PBA president of the Essex County Jail.
Your name for the record.
Emmanuel Amakwa Jr. I'm also the son of an immigrant, the relative of people that have come through the Essex County Jail, have been incarcerated there. And I would like to say that I know you guys believe that us as officers are hurting people, but you also have to understand we are doing our job. We are also trying to keep your family members safe and also go home safely to my family. You may think, oh no, but everybody has the right to live.
Sir, you have to speak in the mic.
Everyone has the right to live, be safe, and that's the job we took by working at Essex County Jail. It's not an easy job. It's very difficult. We have to deal with discipline to no end. We have enough oversight. We have to deal with the prosecutors. We have to deal with our supervisors. We have to deal with our internal affairs. What more can we deal with? Yes, and we also have to deal with your attitude. Because we was told to give respect when people were talking on the mic, and you're constantly talking behind me. I didn't talk when you spoke, please. And like I was saying, it is not a fight just for outside in. It's a fight for also inside out. And the officers should also be involved in anything that's going to have any impact on Essex County Jail, because we matter as well. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let the record reflect that there is no one else wishing to speak at this time. I'm going to, Madam Clerk, take a 5-minute recess to stretch our legs, so to speak, and we'll reconvene the meeting in roughly. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper. Here. Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Here.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Here.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Here.
Freeholder Siebel, absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Here. Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances or resolutions for introduction and first reading?
Mr. President, we have 2.
Okay. Okay, Madam Clerk, we can please read ordinance number 1 into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson?
Mr. President, Director Perillo is here to address this item.
Thank you. Okay. Good evening.
Squeeze
Good
right underneath on the handle.
I'm good. I'll just take it up. I'm good to go. I'm used to having a mic in my hand. I'm here for the police academy, the purchase of the police academy, and for the revenue fee ordinance for the academy.
Name for the record, please.
My name is Anthony Perillo. I'm the director of the Essex County Police Academy.
Okay. Mr. Parlavecchio?
Number 1 is just the fee schedule for the police academy. It's my understanding that since this has now been taken or been moved from the county college to this side of the ledger, so to speak, it's basically the same fees. Have there been any changes to your knowledge?
There's been slight increases in fees for police officer classes, corrections classes, and also the use of our range based on operating expenses.
And this is the fees to the user municipalities?
Correct. So in other words, municipalities that come to the academy would pay us for the recruits to come.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McInerney?
Is there any difference between in-county fees versus out?
There is a difference between in-county fees. Out-of-county fees are more expensive.
Okay, that's what I want. Okay, thank you.
Freeholders, any questions or comments? Do I have a motion and a second?
So move.
Moved by Freeholder Mercado, second by Freeholder Cooper. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel, absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes. Okay. You need me to recognize Freeholder Johnson? Recognizing Freeholder Johnson for the record. Moving to ordinance number 2, Madam Clerk. We can read it into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson?
Mr. President, Executive Director of the ECIA, Mr. Rother, is here to go through this item.
Good evening. Steve Rother, Executive Director of the Essex County Improvement Authority.
Okay. Mr. Rother, would you like to explain a little bit of
Yes.
the ordinance?
We're here on this approval of the bond ordinance for the Essex County Airport improvements and refunding. There's 8.6 million, 9 million that's going to be used for improvements at the airport, and 5 million is going to be a refunding of existing bonds. On the refunding, we're going to be saving $750,000. So that's going to be a very beneficial refunding for us. The 8.69 million is going to be used for a variety of things. As many of you may know, this airport became the airport that it is because the Port Authority wanted us to be a reliever airport, taking general aviation aircraft off of all of the Port Authority airports. And about 30 years ago, they spent a tremendous amount of money at the airport. All of those improvements now need upgrading right now, and most of that money is going to be used for that purpose. We are the most active general aviation reliever airport in the entire metro area. We have greater airport movement there than any other general reliever airport, and so it's important that we maintain our facilities and continue to be the reliever that we are.
Okay. Mr. Parlavecchio?
No questions.
Mr. McInerney?
Yes, could you explain, like, on the 8.6 million, I know that the airport traditionally gets a tremendous amount of financing with regard to its improvements to the actual airport from the FAA.
Yep.
Could you just explain
Sure.
why these are not compliant with those FAA grants?
Yeah, the FAA grants are only given to us for those aspects of the airport that directly affect the general public, so that what they will give us grants for are only for runways, taxiways, aprons, lights, safety equipment, removing of obstructions, those kinds of things. And they give us 90% of those costs. And part of what we're looking for on that $8.69 million funding is going to be to cover the 10% that we have to put up. FAA puts up 90%. The balance of those dollars are going to be for all of the improvements that aren't runway, taxiway, and those kinds of things. For instance, our fuel farm needs to be replaced. The phone systems in the airport hangars are now out of date and have to be upgraded. There are a whole series of things like that that the balance of the money is going to be used for.
I noticed also, and we had discussed that there are new hangars that are going to be constructed, and the assumption there is that with the new hangars, you'll have opportunities to generate additional
Correct.
rents for...
Yeah, correct. All of our hangars are totally occupied, and we have a waiting list for all of our hangars right now. And so on our south parcel, which has no improvements on there, by placing several hangars there, we can generate some more revenue from those hangars.
And this is for, not just now, this is for an extended period of time that these funds will be used.
Oh, yes, yes.
For this.
Clearly, certainly. And even the 10% that we're looking for to put in addition to the FAA grants, that's over a 10-year period.
I got you. And the other part of this is the refunding. So although the ordinance is for $14 million, the only 8.6 of it is actually new money. The
Right.
balance will be used to refund
Fund.
older debt. I think it's back to 2007.
Exactly,
And as you
exactly.
said, you're going to save $750,000
Yep.
over a period of the remaining term. The remaining term of those bonds is no greater than the remaining term that, or I should say, the term of the new bonds, is it any greater than the remaining term of the old bonds?
Yes, the new bonds are, certainly, yes, sure.
Okay, they're going to be, so you are going to, even though they're going to have a greater term, you're still going to have a $750,000.
Yes, yes,
You know,
exactly.
savings. Okay.
Exactly. I gave you those sheets from the Acacia Financial Advisors.
I got those.
That's all in there.
Okay, thank you. So the ECI did provide a very detailed analysis of the capital improvements as well as the schedules of the financing. So thank you
Okay.
very much, Mr. Rather.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. McInerney. Freeholders, any questions or comments? Okay, do I have a motion and a second?
Move it.
Moved by Vice President Richardson, second by Freeholder Palmaris. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel, absent. Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Palmaris. Yes. Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances or resolutions for listing purposes only?
Mr. President, we have none.
Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances and resolutions on second reading and public hearing tonight?
Yes, Mr. President, we have one. Ordinance number O-2019-00014, ordinance approving the creation of the Essex County Police Academy as a division of the Essex County Department of Corrections.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move to ordinance 0219, excuse me, O-219-00013, and read it into the record at a later time. I hereby declare that the public hearing on ordinance O-219-00014 is open. If there's any member of the public who would like to comment for or against this ordinance, please come to the microphone and state your name and affiliation for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, Mr. McInerney, do you have any questions or comments? Mr.
No.
Parlavecchio?
No question.
Freeholder, do you have any questions or comments?
Motion.
Moved by Freeholder
Second.
Cooper, second by Freeholder Mercado. Do I have the same movers to close the public hearing on ordinance O-2019-00014?
Yes.
Thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper. Yes. Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Palmaris.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel, absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving to resolution number 1, which we can read into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, County Council Gassion is here for this item.
Good evening, Courtney
evening.
Gassion, Essex County Council. Mr. President, We are requesting that the board approve tonight the appointment of our new custodian of records. Our custodian of records, Valentina Palcetti, left us in August. We are required by statute to have a custodian of records as a public entity. That individual is responsible for the review and response to all OPRA requests that come into the County of Essex. That individual is given a significant task to review all of the requests, determine whether or not they are applicable to the statutory language, whether or not the county is responsible for replying, and then preparing those responses and getting them back to the requester in the mandated statutory time limit. So it is a big role. We were fortunate enough in this past summer, to hire Olivia Schumann as one of our attorneys in the county counsel's office. She began as an assistant county counsel in early September, and I would like to present her to you as our new custodian of records, and we are seeking your advice and consent regarding same. I will introduce Ms. Schumann so she can introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her background.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Olivia Schumann. I spent last year clerking across the street with Judge Vina. I went to Toro Law School on Long Island. It's a small school, relatively new in comparison, but I loved it, so here I am. I loved clerking, and so getting this position was pretty much as good as it got for me, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Okay, thank you. Freeholders, questions or comments? Carl Vecchio?
No questions.
McInerney?
No question.
Okay, thank you for being here and for your willingness to serve in this position, and good luck. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Moved by Freeholder Mercado, second by Freeholder Cooper. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper. Yes. Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano. Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Sebo. Absent Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Okay, moving to resolutions number 2 through 4, which we can read into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, I see us here to address these items.
Good evening. My name is Asif Mahmood. I'm from Essex County Department of Public Works. I work there as a principal engineer under the supervision of County Engineer Sanjeev Bhatt. We have resolution number 2, which is 2019 county budget in section of item of revenue for Vicoy Park for fence rehab. So that's gonna be for $750,000. That's a CDBG grant. And item number 3 is in section of revenue for traffic signalization. It's an agreement between the township and the county for them to pay their fair share. The estimated cost for the signalization is $350,000, so 50% of that would be $175,000. Item number 4 is Irvington Avenue streetscape improvements in South Orange, Irvington, and Maplewood. And the lowest bidder was AA Bums, and the total cost was $922,801.70. AA Bums, Mr. Alvarado is over here. Also, if you have any questions.
You have a vendor here? I'm sorry.
Yes, contractor is over here.
Okay.
Oh, we met him.
I think we heard from the vendor earlier. Okay, thank you.
Encore performance, Mr.
Yes, okay. Mr. Parlavecchio?
Yeah, thank you. I do have a question on number 3, which is the cost-sharing agreement for traffic signalization. I see that we are receiving revenue from the township. Who is responsible for doing the work? Is the county doing whatever traffic signalization work?
That's correct. county did the design, and once this agreement is approved and the final plans and specs are ready, we're gonna send it for bidding.
Okay.
So that's, the county will take,
So we'll accept the share of the funds, but we'll handle or manage the
That's
operation.
correct. Towards the completion of the project, we will, have the total construction cost, and it will be, send half of that construction cost to the Melbourne Township
Thank
for
you.
reimbursement.
Thank you.
Mr. McInerney?
I have no questions.
Freeholders? Freeholder Johnson?
Yes. On number 4, I see you have Irvington Avenue here, the township of South Orange Village and Maplewood and Newark. Is that Irvington Avenue over there near where the plaza, shopping plaza and all is? On
That's
Irvington
correct.
Avenue?
That's correct. It's gonna be starting from Watt Place, Tishner Avenue, and going up to the Crest Avenue, which is in Maplewood.
What about the Newark part of it? How
The-
much?
The Newark one will also be, so the streetscape gonna be 6, 7 locations that gonna be part of this whole project.
So you're talking about Manor Drive, you're talking about...
That's correct, yes, sir.
Tuxedo, you're talking about Norman Road, you're talking
Yes,
about those?
Yes, those roads will be included in this location. For
Okay.
the streetscape, that's called Phase 1. And the Phase 2, that will be for the future. We are working on it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, President. Freeholder Cooper?
Thank you, Mr. President. Question, is just purely streetscape, sidewalks, benches, plants, or traffic signals changes as well?
It is purely streetscape improvement, like the curb, sidewalk, and the crosswalks, and the handicap ramps. That's all gonna be part of this project. And milling and paving within the intersection. It's not a traffic signalization upgradation project, but it's gonna be a streetscape, including street furniture, stuff like that.
So on the streetscape side, pedestrian-friendly crosswalks, I would like to know more about the plan for Irvington Avenue and South Orange Park. You know, Irvington Avenue and Prospect Street has a heavy amount of disabled and elderly people that use that crosswalk there. So tell me more about the plans, or have you not gotten that far yet?
This, okay, we thought about that to include Prospect, but we have some constraint regarding this is a federally funded project, so altogether, 850,000 were received from the feds, and we, in consultation with the NJDOT, so we had to, excuse our project limits. So, some of the locations have been, removed from streetscape Phase 1. That, that's a reason we don't have Prospect at this time.
So how far up on Irvington Avenue into
Tishner
South Orange are
Avenue.
you coming?
So we're gonna start from Tishner Avenue, Watt Place, going towards.
Ward Place, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Freeholders, Vice President Richardson?
Yes, so how long have you been in business? Where's your company located?
Company's out of Belleville. Been in business since 2014, and we've been specializing in concrete work since we opened the company. And most recently, we've been specializing in these various streetscape jobs. We've done Middlesex County, Passaic County. We're currently working on. We did Union County, and now we were fortunate to do Essex County.
How many workers do you have who are Essex County residents?
About 15, including myself. So 14 that are physically out in the field. mostly, probably 99% in Newark based.
Excellent. You're gonna help the affirmative action numbers for the fourth quarter. They desperately need it. Glad to see you.
That's serious, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On the, I'm sorry. On the Weequahic Park fence, improvements, which fence?
The fence along Elizabeth Avenue
Okay.
and the fence along Meeker Avenue. That's gonna be a, rehab.
Vice President?
Through you, Mr. President.
Yep.
That still leaves Dayton Street?
No, these two streets, Elizabeth Avenue, we are focusing on this project on these two streets along that Weequahic.
It still leaves Dayton Street untouched. And there are a lot of missing fencing all along Dayton Street as well. At the end of Meeker, where you round that curve, there are a ton of missing pieces of fence. So when will that be? Maybe you don't have the answer, maybe to the administration. I mean, I've been at this for a few years now, and I'm glad to see this is gonna happen. So don't take this wrong, but I wanna know about the rest of it too.
Through you, Mr. President, two phases of that, Mr. Vice President. One is a repair part that there's money for in the parks budget to do some fence repair, but then the county executive was looking at doing this in phases with money we have available. So this was phase one, and then the next phase will be Dayton and some of the other parts there. But we'll do some of it with some repair, but it's really going to be a two or three phase project.
Thank you.
And the bid came back last week. For the fence. Julius Coltree, purchasing agent. The bid did come back last week for the fence and has been sent up to Public Works for review, and hopefully we'll have it on the agenda next meeting.
This is Dayton Street we're referring to?
No, this is this
For this.
particular
To award
ordinance.
this contract.
All right. Got it. Thank you.
So to move, I'm sorry, just so to move quick, so fairly quickly, potentially could be back. Get this part done.
Yeah, the contract that Mr. Coltrane was referring to was the contract for this project. And then hopefully, 2020 is right here, so then we'll look at a phase two,
Okay.
which hopefully will be able to include some extra dollars there. But also too, Mr. President, we have money that we put in for fence repair.
Okay.
And some of that we'll be able to dedicate some of that, but that won't get to the major piece that the Vice President was referring to, which we'll do in a second phase.
Okay. I just want to echo comments of my colleague here as well, because I know we've been very happy to see this, but I think we've been talking about this particular fence for a little bit of time, so
Understood.
whatever we can do to accelerate that is appreciated. Freeholder Cooper?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted clarity. If my memory serves me correctly, at the last meeting, there was $750,000 reprogrammed for Weequahic Park. This is in addition to that, right?
No, this is not.
the same 750?
That is correct.
Well, the other meeting, it was 750 reprogrammed from CDBG money. Is my memory incorrect?
Well, this is CDBG,
But this says 2019.
right?
The other meeting, it was a different year of CDBG money. I'll go back to my notes and tell you while we're sitting here. I'll go back and pull out the prior agenda. I just want to be sure that if it's the same, all of it is staying towards, since we've been talking about this fence for a while.
Okay.
But I'm gonna double check while we're here today.
I will do the same.
Thank you.
Freeholders, additional comments or questions on resolution 2, resolution 3, or resolution 4? I'll ask the question on number 4 for the record. I think I know the answer. Number 4 will be done in accordance with the county's complete street policy.
That is correct, Mr. President.
Thank you. Freeholder Richardson,
I just
Vice
want to
President
move
I'll second it.
Freeholder, thank you. We have a mover in a second. Do you want to wait, Freeholder Cooper, or are you okay, comfortable? Very good.
Did you find your notes?
Oh, don't worry, I'm looking, I have them on my computer. No,
Okay.
keep moving.
But we're going to keep moving? Okay. I think it was moved by Vice President Richardson, second by Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Roll call, Madam Clerk, on resolutions 2 through 4.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Sebo, absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Moving
you.
to resolutions number 5 and 6, which are committed to the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Zates.
Joshua Zates, Essex County Parks. Number 5 is a contract with Northeast Roof Maintenance for $252,050. It's for roofing services for various park facilities. It's for any park with, any roof on any building in the park system. And we do have a representative from the company here if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Steve Hooley, Vice President, Northeast Roof Maintenance. We're roofing contractors as well as maintenance contractors. We also are general contractors and historical restoration contractors.
Okay, Mr. Parlecchio?
No questions.
Mr. McInerney?
This is a bid contract, Mr. President. I have any questions?
Thank you. Freeholders, questions or comments? Vice President Richardson?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. Where your company located? Do you employ any Essex County residents, or are you a union outfit?
We're located in Perth Amboy. We do have 6 employees from Essex County, and no, we're not union.
Thank you.
Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Freeholder Johnson?
Through you, Mr. President. Have you did any other contracts here in Essex County?
Yes, we currently have maintenance contracts with Montclair Public Schools, West Orange Public Schools. We also work with the Newark Housing Authority for roofing and maintenance. That's pretty much it, I think, in Essex County.
Where's your company located?
In Perth Amboy.
Oh, you did say Perth Amboy earlier. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mr. McInerney, could you, just for the record, explain what that means, your comment for the record?
Oh, as far as a bid contract
bid
goes?
contract.
When I look at the agenda and I see that there's a contract that was bid in accordance with local public contract law, it means that it was vetted in a very detailed way, that the administration put together a number of specifications that went out in the bid package for all to look. It was the same bid package. Everybody gets the same bid package with the same specs. And it's left up to the individual contractor to come back with the lowest bid and a lowest responsible bid. So in terms of responsible, it would look at the record of, let's say, this roofer here who has contracts not only with the county but with all other municipalities or school districts, and that puts a lot of faith in that. So it's just not, it's already been vetted, so there's just not that much more you can do. And there are situations where if it's not just the lowest responsible, where we look at evaluations. That's not the case here. This is the lowest responsible bid. They came at the lowest and they're responsible. End of story.
Thank you. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Do I have a mover and a second on resolutions 5 and 6?
Motion.
Moved by Freeholder Cooper.
Second.
Second by Freeholder Pomares. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel, absent. Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes. Did we do 6?
I'm sorry,
I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh.
Forgive me.
I wanted to vote on something.
I know we said we were taking 5 and 6, but I don't think we, thank you, Vice President. So let's take a step back. Withdraw that, we need to have them withdraw the motion.
Oh, withdrawn the motion.
Yeah, thank you.
But only for number, withdraw
Number
for
for-
6, resolution
for number-
6, but yes for 5.
So why don't we just take, why don't we take resolution then, so we're gonna take number 5 with the same mover and second. Roll call, Madam Clerk, and withdraw for number 6.
Okay. Mover and second, and Freeholder Seabold, absent Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Comares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay. Moving to resolution number 6, we have already said we could read it into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Zates.
Joshua Zates, Essex County Parks. Number 6 is a contract change order with Sunbelt Rentals to furnish and deliver portable diesel lighting towers. We're looking to add an amount not to exceed $13,680. Just to give the board some history, the current contract is for $68,400. We're requesting the additional 20% in the amount of $13,680, which would make the new contract $82,080. Again, this is for portable diesel light towers, which we use for various events throughout the park system, summer concerts, various other things, as well as the upcoming holiday lights, which will be starting next month.
Mr. Parlavecchio? No questions. Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Freeholders?
I'll move, Mr. President.
Moved by
I'll
Freeholder
second.
Romero, second by Freeholder Mercado. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham, absent Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares. Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel, absent Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Moving to resolutions number 7 through 9, can read them into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, Mr. Del Gaudio is here, as well as some of the vendors.
Frank Delgadio, Director, Essex County Hospital Center. Resolution 7 is a capital expenditure for the replacement of 150 desktop computers. It's through state contract, through PKA, which is a woman-owned business. The equipment is end of life. It's running on Windows 7. They're failing by the day, so the replacement is necessary. A lot of our systems are computerized, and that's what this resolution is about.
Okay. Resolution number 8.
Resolution number 8 is a contract with Apple Diagnostics, DBA Sunrise Diagnostics. It's for laboratory services. It's for the hospital center for our patients and for employees, employee physicals. We do have several representatives from the vendor that are here. Now, this is a new vendor, and it's a minority-owned business. It was a bid.
Can we hear from the vendor, please?
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Mukesh Patel, and I'm the CEO of the Sunrise Diagnostic.
Eugene Schwartzman, Operations Manager.
Can you tell us a little bit about the contract?
We bid on the 2-year contract to provide lab services to the Essex County Hospital.
Tell us a little bit about your firm.
We've been in the lab business since 2013. Over the last few years, we have improved our menu and operation.
Okay.
And just for the record, too, Mr. President, I believe you have 11 employees, and 5 of whom are from Essex County.
Where are you located?
We're located in South Plainfield.
Okay. Why don't we start with 7 and 8? Mr. Parlavecchio?
No questions.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Freeholders on number 7 and 8. Vice President
On
Richardson.
number 8, so it's a 2-year contract. Is there optional years after that? Is there like a 1-year option or 2-year options to extend the contract?
Frank Delgado, Director, Essex County Hospital. Through you, Mr. President, it has a 24-month option.
Thank you.
Additional questions or comments, Freeholder? Do I have a mover and a second?
Move it.
Moved by,
Second.
moved by Vice President Richardson, second by Freeholder Mercado. Roll call, Madam Clerk, on number 7 and 8.
Freeholder Siebel, absent. Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Good luck. Moving to resolution number 9, which I've already said we can read into the record at a later time. I guess we could also take resolution number 10, which we could read into the record at a later time.
Yes, Mr. Delgaudio is going to handle number 9, and Ms. Fishman and Roberto are going to
We'll
handle
handle
the
number 10.
10.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Frank Delgado, Director, Essex County Hospital Center. Resolution 9 is a affiliation agreement with the 2-year affiliation agreement with the Academy of Clinical and Applied Psychoanalysis and the Boston Graduate School of Psychoanalysis of New Jersey. This is a long-standing affiliation agreement. We've been utilizing this back in the days of the old hospital. So how this affiliation works is they send students, they spend 3 to 4 semesters at the hospital center under the advisement of our Rehabilitation Services Department, and they provide one-on-one psychoanalysis with our patients. It's an extremely valuable resource for us, and obviously it comes with no financial cost.
Great. Mr. Prolovec, yes?
No question.
No questions.
Freeholder's additional questions or comments?
I'll move it.
Moved by, Vice,
Second.
okay. Moved by
Mercado.
Freeholder Mercado, second by Freeholder Pomares. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Tag team.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel, absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
We're ready.
Okay.
Good evening, freeholders.
Good evening.
Mr. President, I'm Eileen Fishman, Director of the Division of Community Health Services, and I'm here with my program monitor for the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Services Grant, and this is for our letter of intent for the coming year for 1.443591.
Thank you. Mr. Prolovecchio?
No questions.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Freeholders?
Second.
Moved by Freeholder Pomares, second by Freeholder Mercado. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel, absent. Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Moving to resolution number 11, which we can read into the record at a later time.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a contract with Benavate Inc. to provide community development software for our economic development training employment division. This is right now, this process with CDB applications and home program applications is very, very paper intensive. And this software is going to allow us to move into the 21st century in processing most of this electronically. It's trust funding, and it's going to help reduce errors in processing and enable management to focus its efforts more on strategic or higher level things and less on the critical, the sort of the very intense process of managing each piece of the operation. So what we're proposing through our CIO, Mr. Hunt, is to move to this system. We think it's going to provide a lot of benefits for the division and for also, perhaps more importantly, for the clients. They'll be able to see where their applications are in real time and the workflow process, and get much better response from the division. And it's a contract an amount not to exceed $55,660.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jackson. Ms. Parlavecchio?
No questions on this one.
Mr. McInerney?
Does this include training time as well, the 55,000?
I'm not sure, I'm not sure. I'll take that.
Okay, thank you. I mean, you can't exceed it, so,
Right, yeah.
but we should get training.
Okay, thanks. Freeholders, questions or comments? Have a mover and a second?
Move it.
Moved by Freeholder Mercado, second by Freeholder Luciano. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper. Yes. Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Sebo. Absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Moving to resolutions 12 and 13, which you can read into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson?
Mr. Brown, Director Brown and his team are here to address these items, Mr. President.
Good evening, Maurice Brown, Director for the Division of Community Action. And with me is actually our Teamwork, September Teamwork Award winner, my manager for SSH, Maria Ramos. I'll read the first part. The $3,427,414 is what we receive for rental assistance, shelter, et cetera, through our SSH program in the beginning of 2019. However, our agencies ran out of money. We petitioned the state, and they gave us another dose of money. And Maria can explain that.
Good evening, Maria Ramos, Community Action. At the beginning of September, we noticed that our vendors ran out of money, so we requested additional funds from the Department of Health, Division of Family, and they had granted us $460,000. So we divided that equally among 6 of our current vendors to provide back rents and security deposits.
Okay. Ms. Parlavecchio?
Yes, will the additional funds carry these programs through the end of the year?
Yeah, that's what happened. Most of them ran out of funds. We have 24 vendors for the social services program, but some of them have shelter money, so that some of them still have shelter money, but the monies from back rents and security deposit was completely exhausted. So we asked for that services only.
Okay, and for these services, they'll be covered until the next round of money comes?
The contract ended in December 31st.
December, okay.
So we hope to be covered October and November and December with these
Okay.
monies.
Thank you.
Ms. McInerney?
I don't have any questions on it, no.
Freeholders, any questions on resolution number 12? No?
I'll move it.
Why don't we take 13
Yes.
as well?
Yes, why not?
We can take them together. Sure. Mr. Brown, or Mr. Jackson, who's number 13 as well? We take 12 and 13 together?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay.
With 13, those are the 6 agencies that have been given the equal amounts for rental assistance from the SSH.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Parlavecchio?
No questions.
Ms. McInerney?
No questions.
Questions? Freeholders? Questions or comments on 12 or 13?
Move it.
Moved by Freeholder Mercado. Have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Freeholder Palmeris. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel, absent Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Palmares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham, absent Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving to resolution number 14, which we can read into the record at a later time. So Jackson.
Mr. Brown.
This is just an insertion of the rest of the amount of money. I'm sorry, Maurice Brown, Interim Director for Senior Services. This money is the insertion, of the rest of the insertion for the Division of Aging from the state of New Jersey into our Title III and some of our other budget items for the rest of the year.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Parlavecchio?
No questions.
Ms. McInerney?
No questions.
Freeholders? That a mover?
Move it.
Moved by Vice President
Second.
Richardson. Second, sorry, my head was down. Second by Freeholder Mercado. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Palmares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel, absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to resolution number 15 through 20, which we can read into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson, resolution number 15.
Director Mumford is here to address these items.
Thank you, Director.
Good evening, Freeholders.
Good evening.
Resolution 15 is the budget insertion for supplemental assistance for families. This is funds that are used for individuals who are receiving TANF benefits from the Division of Family Assistance and Benefits their time is expiring. This is money that is used for intensive case management services to make sure that we have provided all the necessary services to help these clients become self-sufficient.
Okay. Let's do resolution number 16.
Resolution number 16 is in reference to, is an agreement between the New Jersey Department of Education and the Essex County One Stop for us to continue to be a GED testing center, which is now called the High School Equivalency Test. This is our agreement to allow us to administer the test. It is a revenue-driven service where individuals pay a certain amount to take the test, and there's a certain amount that goes to the county and a certain amount that goes to help us offset operating costs at the testing center, which is located on the 5th floor at the Essex County One Stop Center.
Resolution number 17.
Okay. Resolution number 17 is Workforce Innovation Act of 2019 to provide services, job readiness services for WIOA out-of-school youth between the ages of 16 to 24. This is internal, is located at 50 South Clinton Street, where we selected a vendor, Coach on Call, who's here with us tonight, and I'm going to call her forward to explain the program. Ms. Carol Lucas.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Carol Lucas, the founder and president of Coach on Call Youth Trainings. For the past 3 years, we've served as a vendor for the County of Essex, and we've facilitated job readiness for out-of-work, out-of-school youth. Nearly 80% of our youth complete the 4-week job readiness program, which provides them with communication skills, life skills, soft skills, resume writing, and we also implemented a mock interview where the young people work with professionals from businesses in Essex County, and they're given the opportunity to improve their job readiness skills, as well as now using technology to create LinkedIn, and we provide career and motivational coaching. For the past 3 years, we've served over 110 clients between the ages of 18 to 24, and I'm excited to say that we were awarded a mentor pilot the past year, and we've had an active group of 25 of those graduates placed with mentors in different vocational tracks, as well as government and jobs. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm going to take 15, 16, and 17. Mr. Parlavecchio.
No questions.
Mr. McInerney.
No questions.
Freeholder Johnson.
I'll move it.
Oh, you can move it? Is it? Any additional questions? We have a mover. Any additional questions or comments? Do I have a second? Second by Freeholder Pomeroy. Taking resolutions 15, 16, and 17.
Yes.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Sewell, absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. I'm moving to resolution 18 through 20, which we can read into the record at a later time.
Julius Monfort, Division Director, Essex County Division of Training and Employment. Resolution 18 is grant funded through the Federal Department of Labor, which comes through the New Jersey Department of Labor to provide WIOA intensive services for adults. I have the vendor here tonight, Jewish Vocational Services, and I will call them forward to explain the program.
Good evening. I'm Lynn Sternstein, Director of Education and Literacy at Jewish Vocational Service in East Orange. We're providing low literacy adult basic education services under the WIOA grant. In the past year, we've had 16 enrollments, 7 completions and advancements, and we still have 2 people engaged in the training, and we're accepting additional referrals.
Excellent. Thank you. 19.
Resolution 19 is extension of current WIOA youth service providers to provide intensive service for WIOA education services. What we did was we released the RFP. During the time that we released the RFP, we did not have enough vendors who met the criteria of the RFP. So in the previous RFP, we wrote the RFP with the option to renew or extend for a current period. And with this, we are extending. I'm going to call Mr. Tariq White from Leaders for Life up to explain what's been going on with his program.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mumford. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tariq White. I'm the founder, executive director of Leaders for Life. For the past 2 years, we were contracted to provide education training for 40 16 to 24-year-olds. For the past 2 years, we serviced 57 clients. 32 were graduates at a 56% graduation rate. 13 are still in the program. 4 went into the military. 9 went into post-secondary training, college or some type of post-secondary training. And 36 of those 57 clients are now gainfully employed. Thank you.
20.
Resolution number 20. These 13 vendors will be providing Workforce New Jersey's training program services to TANF clients, food stamp clients, SNAP clients, and general assistant clients who are clients of DFAB and DTE. We had an RFP process. We selected these 13 vendors. They're here tonight to explain what they will be providing, from occupational training to job readiness to direct supported services. I'm going to ask each vendor to come up. Limit your comments to at least 1 minute. Thank you.
I like that.
Good evening, freeholders. My name is George Blunt. I am the president and owner of the National Career Institute. My institute is located in East Orange. New Jersey, we train folks in several areas. We train them in HVAC, we train them in building and coding, we train them in patient care technician, and we do a lot of medical assisting. The past year, we have served from Essex County about 18 people. To be exact, give you the exact numbers. Of those 18 people that we served, 12 of them complete the program. Of those 12 complete the program, there are 3 that are still active. They're still going to school as we speak. So that means that we have now 6 people available for placement. Of those 6 people, we have placed 9, of those 9 people, we placed 6 in jobs. Currently, we have classes running morning, afternoon, and evening, so we can service people around the clock. We have every accreditation you can think of. We are accredited by the Council on Occupational Education. We are approved for veterans. We work in the prison system. We train inmates. So we have a well-rounded program. And thank you, Freeholder, for listening.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mitra Chaudhary. I'm from Essex County College. And we also have a lot of those allied health programs, certified nursing assistants, patient care techs, the certified clinical medical assistant, and we also do supply chain management and computer literacy with warehouse and customer service. The difference, I think, with us is that we are able to provide them with college credits. So once they finish the program, if they join Essex County College, they're given 3 credits for CNA, 6 credits for PCT, and 6 credits for medical assistance. They have to declare health sciences as their major. They can also get about 8 credits for supply chain management and roll over into the associate degree program for supply chain management. And computer literacy gives them a mouse certification. We served about 115 people under this contract. We have kept at least 80%, retained 80% job placement because the employment market is really good. So we were able to place, I would say, almost 75% of the 80% of the graduates that we retained. And we hope to continue with what we have been doing. We have been servicing the county for about 30 plus years in our workforce development program. It's a very robust program, and it's also supported by other funding in the college. We have single stop services, which provides them with, how to get about with their public benefits. We have a wellness center. So I thank you for the opportunity, and we hope to continue to provide these services.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I'm sorry, before she leaves, just for the sake of convenience, we have one question for you, ma'am?
Yep. Freeholder Pomeroy. We have a question for the
We have one
vendor.
question?
Thank you.
I heard you rattle off a number of credits. It's about 15 credits a day amount?
If they're in each program, so if they're in certified nursing assistant, when they finish, if they go into Essex County College, then their certificate converts into 3 credits. So if they're in patient care tech, it converts into 6 credits. If they're in medical assistance, it's 6 credits. If they do supply chain management, they have to pass the tests, and supply chain management is 1 credit each. So there are like 8 courses that you can do 1 credit each. If they pass the tests, then they have those 8 credits they can roll over into the associate degree program for supply chain management. And computer literacy doesn't have the credits, but they can sit for the mouse certifications.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So just to follow, a client would do this program before they enroll. So you would do this first, and then you could potentially enroll into the county college
Yes, you can.
with these credits.
Yes.
That's great.
Good evening. My name is Coralie, and I represent La Casa de Don Pedro. La Casa has been working with Welfare to Work for the past 20 years, and we also provide educational services for Essex County's TANF, JA SNAP population. This contract year, we've enrolled 131, completed 66, and 62 of all enrolled participants completed, and there's only 15 participants still active in the program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lynn Sternstein from Jewish Vocational Service. We've been providing adult basic education and ESL services as well as citizenship in Essex County for over 40 years. Under this contract, we are providing adult basic education as well as CWEP community work experience to SNAP, TANF, and GA beneficiaries. In the last year, we had 28 enrollments, 8 completions, and 4 placements.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Rose Howard from Catholic Charities Workforce Development of Newark. We are currently offering food service with a ServSafe certification. If they pass the test, we're also offering computer literacy and ABE and HSE. For the past service year, we served over 262 individuals with, I apologize, 21 placed in employment.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Josephine Prudon. I represent ProData Inc. Although it's only our second year, it's already been a success. Our rating is the same as last year, although we were only allotted 10 slots. But out of that 10 slots from TANF, our enrollment were 18. We were kind of over-enrolled, but our number of completions are 12, and the number of placements is 7. We at ProData, based on our experience in Jersey City, which we've been serving the same population, I also have here some, if I can give it out. Is it okay, or?
Yep.
I'll just have to read it.
You have something to pass out?
Pass out, okay. That's our performance. Even though only 10 slots awarded 35 grand. Our focus is from the previous year is only for the administrative assistant with office, with MS Office, and we make sure that they also graduate as with certification as a certified MS Office specialist. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Lisa Lacan. I'm with Blessed Ministries Incorporated. Although we are a new vendor to this project, we have been in workforce development for the past 20 years. We currently have various contracts with the Department of Labor, working with the parolee population. We work with adults with disabilities and workforce, and we've been previously working with the SNAP population. So I'm very excited for us to get started with this program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nikhil Harmouche. I'm the director of American Technology Training Institute. This is the first year I got the contract, and I'm very excited. I have a good experience with increased the skills and placement. This is my goal, and everything will be okay, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Freeholders. My name is C. Eugene Edwards, the Managing Director for Worldwide Education Services. My corporate office is in Jersey City. This is my first time in Essex County. Just for Hudson County production that we did last year, the award is slot for TANF was 7834 for GAs, and the enrollment was for TANF 88, 71 for GAs. We completed, I terminated out of the TANF population 36 for reasons, attendance or medical, whatever. And completion across the board, total between GAs and TANF was 54. Placement total was 49 between GAs and TANF. Retained for the contract year 2018-2019, 3 out of TANF, 2 GAs, total of 5 population. So originally we started with 112 and enrolled 159. The programs we're going to be servicing is GED, ESL, and Job Search. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Alicia Nightingale. I'm the founder and executive director of Educate the Block. We are a private career school located at NJCU, New Jersey City University. We actually service the at-risk populations in Hudson, Essex, and a few other counties in New Jersey. We facilitate 7 different programs, one of which is a Merchant Mariner program. We are currently contracted with Essex for that program, and we were contracted last year for that program. And it's the first and only maritime vocational program in the state. I created the program a year and a half ago directly with the Masters, Mates, and Pilots Union in Essex County in order to give women, people of color, and anyone from an underserved community the ability to be trained and employed in the maritime industry, which historically was a little segregated. It's a 4-month program. It's very intense. We do fundamentals of the industry, of course. We do have to give them some Euclidean geometry and some physics. They have to know nautical miles. We do a whole dossier of soft skills. We have the actual union members come in and do the hands-on training bi-weekly. So it's a lot of like rope throwing and tying knots. We do an end-of-program project for them where they're actually mapping out their own voyages. And we have the union come back in and interview them for positions, and then they facilitate the placement of students. We give them certifications. They get an OSHA maritime certification during the program. They get first aid, CPR, AED, bloodborne pathogens, certifications. And if they get a job, if they're offered a job, we cover the cost of the TWIC card, which is a federal credential, and we pay for half of the union initiation fee for them to get into the union. Starting salaries are $19 an hour, $28 an hour with overtime, which they are all offered. So they basically start out making $28 an hour. Full benefits, 401k, it's a great opportunity for people in underserved communities. Okay, yes. Thank you. Is there any questions?
Okay, thank you. Freeholder, Vice President Richardson?
Yes.
Yes, through you, Mr. President. So how many people have you trained with the maritime program, and how many have been placed?
For Essex County, we have trained, we were allotted 13 people into the program, 10 completed, 6 were hired, 3 that were on, I guess, legally hired in Essex County, meaning some did not fit the requirement for what you consider placement because it was under a certain amount of hours, or they just did not bring back the pay stubs to us.
Excellent.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Additional questions or comments, Freeholders? Okay. We hear you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Vice President Richardson.
Got a question about 19. It's a contract extension for 4 months. Right? So what happens after the 4 months? Why wasn't the contract extended for a longer period of time?
Judy Spons for Division Director, Essex County Division Training and Employment. We extended it 4 months because as of tomorrow, we'll be meeting with our purchasing director to release a new RFP, which will start a new contract period for January 1, 2020. So that's why we didn't go past that time, and we have a 2-year life to use the funding that we currently have. So we're going to extend that funding so that we can have a new funding cycle.
Thank you.
Mr. President, just to give you some historical knowledge to where we are with the contracts. I've been around welfare to work since its inception with the county. We started out with 36,000 individuals that were required to be in activity. As of today's date, there's only 1,600 that are required to be in activity. So this is the final 1,600 that we've been working with. Also, over the last 2 years in Essex County, there were two houses. Newark was responsible for some training, and Essex County was responsible for training. I spent the last 2 years working with the New Jersey Department of Labor and New Jersey Family Development, along with the assistance of Keisha Barnett, from the department head from DFAB, that we are now the sole responsible government agency for putting our constituents into training programs. And the reason why that is important was because Newark did not control case management. but Essex County was responsible for the numbers. So if Newark felt that they're part of the funding, they didn't get a slap on the wrist. We took the slap on the wrist. So if we're gonna buy the bacon, then we need to be fully responsible for it. So these are our vendors for 2019. I thank you for the time. I thank my vendors for coming out tonight, and I'm done.
Thank you. Mr. Pralavecchio.
No question.
Mr. McInerney?
I have a question. Are these costs per slots, are they prorated for the term of the contract, or?
The WIOA
3,500?
contracts, the WIOA contracts are, let me get my thoughts together. The welfare to work contracts are performance-based, so they're prorated based on them meeting certain performance standards. And the WIOA contracts are all cost reimbursement-based contracts.
Is that the 3,500, the railroad?
The 3,500 are ITAs and set costs.
Because were those numbers higher before?
Yes.
They used to be 4,500?
They used to be 4,500.
Right.
If it's an ITA, which got pulled, we was originally supposed to be on, I'll be coming back with those contracts.
Oh,
later
okay,
next
all
year.
right, all right, thank you very much.
Any further questions, Mr. President?
Freeholders, additional questions or comments?
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Vice President Richardson, second by Freeholder Mercado. Roll call, Madam Clerk, 18 through 20.
Freeholder Siebel, absent Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham, absent Freeholder Cooper, absent Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to all the providers. Thank you. Moving to resolution number 21. Read it into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, Julius Coltree, Deputy Administrator, this is a grant award to Department of Citizen Service for $14,149.80 from the state of New Jersey for 2000. It's body armor replacement for blunt trauma instruments, which would be hammers and severe blows. It is not body armor for weapons, but it will stop a knife or a blunt object.
Good. Mr. Pralavecchio? No question. Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Freeholders, questions or comments? We have a mover and a second.
Move it.
Moved by Vice President Richardson.
Second.
Second by Freeholder Johnson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper, absent Freeholder Graham, absent Freeholder Johnson. Yes. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Present, no vote.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson. Freeholder Siebel, absent Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
I'm moving to resolution number 22. Mr. Jackson.
County Council Gassion is here to address this item.
Courtney Gassion, Essex County Council. Through you, Mr. President, we're requesting the approval of a professional services agreement with the Office of the Prosecutor for the continuing legal education consultant and public safety academy training administrator by Hillary Brunel. This is a contract in the amount not to exceed $65,000. It is a publicly advertised, fair, and open RFP. Ms. Brunel has been providing this service for the last several years. The funds will be coming out of the operating budget of the prosecutor's office, and she provides the administration and oversight for the training at the police academy, as well as the CLE, or the continuing legal education classes that are provided through the Essex County Prosecutor's Office. And just as a side note, those classes are required for all attorneys in the state of New Jersey. They're offered to members of the Prosecutor's Office free of charge, and they are generous enough to actually extend that to the Essex County Counsel's Office as well, so we're able to take advantage of those classes free of charge also.
Thank you. Mr. Pralavecchio?
No question.
Ms. McInerney?
No questions.
Freeholders, questions or comments? We have a mover and a second.
Move it.
Moved by Freeholder Mercado, second by Vice President Richardson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel, absent Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares. Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson, absent Freeholder Graham, absent Freeholder Cooper, absent Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, moving to resolution number 23. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, Julius Coltree, Deputy Administrator. This is to This bid is to provide hardware and software maintenance for our live scan equipment for the Essex County Sheriff. Live scan is a paperless, digital, capturing fingerprints that would be related to the Sheriff's Department after someone is fingerprinted and then sent down to the facility, the correctional facility.
Thank you.
In the amount of $96,931.88.
It's probably like, yeah.
The Sheriff's Office.
Yeah. Mr. McInerney? Freeholders, questions or comments on resolution number 23?
I move it. Second.
Moved by, who was the mover? I'm sorry, Freeholder Mercado? Or was it,
No, I was, he said.
you were the mover?
Yes.
I'm sorry, thank you. Freeholder Mercado, second by Freeholder Ramirez. Okay, thank you.
Move.
Yep.
Who seconded, Mr. President?
I got it. I second.
Roll call, Madam Clerk?
Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Johnson?
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano?
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado?
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares?
Yes.
Freeholder, Vice President Richardson?
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel, absent. Freeholder President Gill?
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Moving to resolution number 24. Mr. Jackson, and I may have missed it, but I think I requested some information that I didn't see on resolution number 24.
Yeah, I can,
Okay.
my apologies, Mr. President, I know you wanted it beforehand, but I can't answer some of those questions.
I'm going to actually look for a motion to table this to the next meeting, because I'd like to discuss some additional issues.
You need a motion.
Do I need a motion? Can I make the motion? Yeah. I'm going to make a motion to move, to adjourn 24 to the following meeting,
November 6th.
November 6th.
So move.
Thank you. For a second, thank you.
Second.
Yep.
No.
What are we doing?
It's okay, I moved it, either way, it's fine. I moved it in, Freeholder Mercado, second, thank you.
Just
Thank
take a roll call.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel, absent. Freeholder Vice President Richardson?
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares?
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado?
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano?
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson?
Yes.
Freeholder Graham, absent. Freeholder Cooper, absent. Freeholder President Gill?
Yes,
So moved.
thank you, Madam Clerk.
Mr. President, if I may, I
Yes.
just wanted to clarify. Isn't we did ignore the questions? We actually have the
Yeah, no.
answers, but I didn't know that you
100%.
wanted them in
No, no,
writing.
no.
Just, okay.
I think the other thing, Mr. Jackson, and I should have flagged this earlier too, historically, this vendor has been here when this contract.
I'm sorry, Mr. President?
Historically, this vendor has been here when this contract's been on the agenda.
Okay.
Too, as well. So this is not something usually where we approve this contract without any representation from even though I think it's below
Yes, understood.
the threshold.
Okay.
The nature of this service.
Yes, sir.
Usually requires it because it's the only time that we see anyone from this firm is when we give the contract out.
Okay.
Moving to resolution.
Moving right along.
That's come up before. We used to get reports,
Yes.
the board, years ago.
Yeah, the reports are just the forwarded of what we get from NJAC. Which we print, which I'm pretty sure we're
Just saying,
capable, I'm pretty sure we're capable of doing ourselves.
But at least we got that. I mean, we didn't get anything before. We haven't
So-
gotten anything.
Anyway, it's adjourned and we will discuss some of these issues. And, maybe we'll be back on the agenda. Resolution number 25, which we can read into the record at a later time.
Mr. President, Julius Coltree, Deputy Administrator, this is a purchase for our IT department in accordance with exceeding $100,000. The contract is for PKA Technology, a minority-owned business, in the amount of $287,262.44. It is for hardware for our reconfiguring of 320, 321 University Avenue for our IT department.
Okay, Mr. Pralavecchia?
No questions.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Freeholders? Moved by Freeholder Johnson,
Second.
second by Freeholder Mercado. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel, absent Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham, absent Freeholder Cooper, absent Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have added. Do we have an added starter? Moving to resolution number 81, which we can read into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson?
Yes, Director Burnett, I believe is still here.
We hope she's
To address this item.
Yes.
Good evening, I'm Keisha Burnett, the Acting Division Head for Family Assistance and Benefits. I'm simply here to request an extension of an existing contract for Village Hotel, which houses single individuals who are on cash assistance, general assistance. We are currently contracted for 18 units at $50 per day. The reason I'm asking for the request is to afford them the opportunity when we go out to bid in May.
Thank you. Mr. Pralavecchia? No questions.
No questions.
Freeholders? Do I have a mover?
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Vice President Richardson and second by Freeholder Pomares. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Carlos.
Freeholder Cooper, absent Freeholder Graham, absent Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Ricardo.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel, absent Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving back, resolutions 26 through 80. Do I have a mover and a second?
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Vice President Richardson, second. Second by Freeholder Mercado. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel, absent Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Ricardo.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham, absent Freeholder Cooper, absent Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Reports of board committees. Freeholders, do we have any reports of board committees? Any legislative reports? Written communication? Freeholders, do we have any unfinished business? New business? Okay, Madam Clerk, let's go to public comment. If there's any member of the public who would like to comment on any matter, please come to the microphone, state your name, address, and affiliation for the record. You will have 3 minutes to speak.
Stacy Gregg, Rockaway. I understand after 5 months, you finally came up, God bless you, with a oversight board, but it's like the fox guarding the hen house. So I know it was the first reading. There were a lot of questions asked, and I hope that you answer them. I want to talk about the jail in general. I'm sure you all read the article, Blood Money, about Joey D., Deportation Joe, getting to be known more and more as the new Nazi of New Jersey, along with you guys. This is a lot of money. You're getting every month close to $2 million, and I want to know if you know, I'm wearing a flag. Some of the people that go to the jails come from countries where they'll be persecuted because of LGBTQ status. So when I'm bringing the flag and I'm waving it, Pretend that it's the odor of stench and dead fish. Because when you walk towards the jails that you oversee as concentration keepers, this is what the smell is. It smells like shit. It smells like rotten fish. Have you gone to your detention centers? Have you? Because that's what it smells like, and that smell is going to stick to you for the rest of your lives. I wasn't here to read about that, but that stuck with me. We walked there. We walked the 3 miles, and that's what that article was, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. You think you're here doing a good thing? You're giving out the money like you're kings sitting on a pedestal to these people that come up here and beg for their jobs and their livelihoods. And you're getting that money from blood. Blood of people that are detained for 24 hours that they don't need to be in there. This is you being complicit with the Trump administration. Your thing needs to have something in it, the oversight board, regarding reviewing all detainees assisted in a timely manner so as not to be detained 1 additional 24 hours longer than necessary. Review of records at attorneys and each Essex location's facility paperwork to those seeking asylum so they can become citizens. No political prisoners held longer than 3 days. No transportations out of New Jersey unless to be reunited with family members. No deportation, Joe. Stop the deportations. In person, in front of a judge, in a timely manner, within 48 hours. No group or
30
televised
seconds.
hearings. Use of current tracking devices and release, and only if deemed necessary. These are not rapists. These are not criminals. They're asking for asylum. No more profiteering. All money from contracts needs to be given for inmates' assistance, not for 1 cent for Essex County use. Oversight boards need to have access to financials and audit of where every cent from ICE is applied. Thank you for your time. I hope you heard my anger. And again, you stink. The jails stink. The walking to the jails stink.
And time
And
out.
shame on you for running a disgusting, disgusting camp.
So Munira El-Bumani, once again, a survivor of Caldwell, and also I had a walkthrough of the Green Monster. First, I want to say that we're not against an oversight committee. We just want it to be done right. You heard a lot of people spoke. I got an issue with the person who is responsible for the conditions of the jail, overseeing the jail. And that is, of course, Joey D., all right, under his administration. Under this failed administration, this is the reason why we have to have not only people investigating, but also oversight of this. So I feel that he should not be nowhere involved with the process of selection, and neither should he be involved with who get to go, who get to stay, and recording this stuff, because it's just like, you know, the person, it's like the criminal in charge of his own criminality. It should not happen, and we have an issue with that. I also have a concern about the makeup of the members, the task force. You have to put people who are from surviving that the horrors of Essex County Jail, as well as people who have long history with Caldwell and also still on the ground advocating for the human rights, the restoration of individuals incarcerated. You have to have someone who speaks to the needs of the women that's incarcerated. We hear a lot of talk. We hear people giving out rewards, you know, for people coming and doing the work, but we don't have voices of the women, okay? I'm a female survivor of Caldwell. Since I've been home, very limited amount of advocacy talking about women, the fastest growing population, women who are the breadwinners of the home, okay, historically and statistic-wise, that's being incarcerated, but we don't have their voices at the table. Okay, we need a female group
30
that's
seconds.
strong. And then I also want to speak about the homeless problem. 2019 point account. Essex County, once again, the highest level. Here we are again, providing funding, and don't get me wrong, we need those agencies to be funded, and we need them to be adequately funded, okay? But it's a travesty that 2019, Essex County is still the highest level of homeless epidemic in this community. It's a travesty to have the millions of dollars that's being poured in to abate homelessness for us to be in the condition that we're in. That's another issue that is totally unacceptable. Something needs to be done. You need a plan, an effective plan moving forward in regards to this homeless crisis here in Essex County, particularly in Newark, New Jersey. And I'm going to close with that.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let the record reflect that there is no one else wishing to speak at this time. Freeholder, do you have any comments you'd like to make? Mr. President? Freeholder Palmeras.
I want to thank my colleagues for the acknowledgement on the evening when I was honored by the Essex County Chamber of Latino American Chamber, and I want to thank you all for taking the time to be at, and I know it's a tough night, there's a lot of events, but I want to, thank you all for your support with that.
Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations. Freeholder, additional questions or comments? We have a motion to adjourn. Meeting adjourned.